Starting the stream. So, hey guys, it's me again. Ideas of Ice and Fire. It's time for the Thursday live stream. And this time I'm joined by Mary Ellen and David from Order of the Green Hand. So, you guys want to introduce yourselves to my audience in case they don't know you? Yes. Well, yeah. Yeah, well, yeah, a lot of people ask for this collaboration. I mean, like a lot of people. Like, yeah. I'm reading comments on my video, and they're just like, "Order of the Green Hand. Have you seen this theory? Have you heard about this?" So last night, I actually went and watched some of your videos, and I liked a lot of the stuff that I heard, and I agree with you guys on a lot of stuff. Like there was something that Dave you said on your last Q&A video that just really resonated with me about D&D feeling like they're better writers than George, and just feeling like they can just do whatever they want. That I feel like that's true. Like I've seen their arrogance. I've seen it, like how they're like, "Oh yeah, we thought this story made narrative sense." And in the beginning they're like, "We're going to tell George's story." And then they just started doing their own thing for no reason, you know? So I definitely see that. Mhm. Mhm. People are Mhm.
So I don't know.
They are. There's definitely some sorry, we were having some audio problems and people couldn't really hear you guys.
Can you
Uh
hear us now?
I fixed it. It was on my end.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that's my bad. So, like, in case you guys didn't hear, I'm here with Mary Ellen and Dave from Order of the Green Hand. Sorry about that little mistake. So, yeah. So the question that one of the biggest questions that I got and that I wanted to answer is the title of this video. It was about the Night King, how he marched on the wall at the end of the last episode. And basically what we see is him take the dragon and, destroy the wall with it. But then the question that the person had for me was, did he need the dragon? So if it wasn't for the dragon, would they have just been like stuck behind the wall? Like what other way could they have gotten through? And
Mm.
I don't see any other way because I know in the book, the dragon, the not the dragon binder, but the horn of Joramun is definitely a thing in the book. But in the show, that was never mentioned. So it seems like the Night's King plan totally hinges on Daenerys and Jon Snow being in love, and Daenerys loving Jon Snow enough to risk everything and fly up north of the wall. And it's like he would have had to foresee all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's interesting. Do you guys have a take on that? Do you have anything to say about that?
Um, Actually, I kind of have a question for
Mm-hmm.
you before I even.
Sure.
What do you think? I watched your show review,
Yes.
and you thought that it was Night King magical force, or I
Yeah.
can't remember the exact terminology that the dragon was shooting, because I couldn't figure it out because it wasn't melting it,
Mm-hmm.
and I couldn't figure out how ice would combust ice.
Yeah.
I was like, what are you going to make the ice too cold for the ice?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I don't really understand how that could have been. I was
Yeah.
like, But I thought that was an interesting idea. It's like, how could that work, though? It was kind of my question for you.
Well, it's like, okay, so you see how the whites awaken when the Night King rises them, and their eyes are glowing blue, and you think, why are eyes are glowing? Why are their eyes glowing blue? It's like they're full of this energy, and that's the cause of the blue eyes, and that's what Viserion's full of too. He's full of that same energy, and since he's a dragon, he can use that as kind of a weapon. It comes out of his mouth, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of how I view it, but like it could just be like that's just what I'm trying to. That's like the loophole that I'm going through to try and kind of make it make sense. Because to me, it doesn't make sense that it's blue fire or ice. Neither of those two things really like jives with my understanding of how it should work. But to me, that was just my way of trying to explain it and make it kind of make a little bit of sense. Because I don't think this is happening in the book. I don't think we're gonna get a white dragon in the book. Like my whole thing is that I think that Euron is definitely gonna take one of Daenerys' dragons, and that's how she's gonna be weakened. And the army of the dead is gonna use the horn of Joramun to bring down the wall or a part of the wall and come through. So I think it's gonna be reworked because we know George gave them bullet points, but you know everything in between those bullet points is different.
Yeah.
Yeah, so to answer your question, I think that definitely that the Night King in the show needed the dragon in order to breach the wall because I find that a way to explain that entire ridiculous plot where they went beyond the wall and searched for the white to bring to Queen Cersei. And so like if that was their end game, that's how we're going to take down the wall. We can't reveal exactly how it's going to go down in the books for whatever reason. Either it's budget or it would just be too complicated or it's just not something that they're allowed to reveal. That was how they decided to do it. And so that's kind of how you got that like flimsy little story there with them going beyond the wall. And I think that, go ahead, Dave.
I really thought that it was going to have something to do with him touching Bran and disabling the magic, and therefore they could breach the walls.
Right. Like how they did in the cave. But that ended up not being the case.
Yeah.
So I think he needed the dragon. I think the showrunners needed that dragon to be used by the Night King to breach the wall. And so going back to that, like, did he know all of this was going to happen? When we did something with Rawrist, one commenter suggested the idea that perhaps like what the drawings were on the cave was like kind of foretelling that event beyond the wall. So like, you know, was this all pre-planned and pre-programmed for all of this to happen that way, to have Jon and them go beyond the wall, then Dany go, and I mean, because they definitely seemed prepared with those ice javelins.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, so I agree with your assessment on that.
They do certainly seem prepared, and then in other ways it seems like they're not prepared. So that's why it's very confusing to me. Like,
right.
So it's like, because I'm going to talk about the last episode a little bit. Everyone knows I hated it, but like you get the white bear, they attack with that bear, but then they don't, like they attack with the bear and they kill in Jon Snow and the gang, they kill the bear, right? But then later on they sneak up on a group of the others, and I'm wondering, like, shouldn't they already know they're there because they attacked with the bear? And then they sneak up on them, and it's like they're unprepared, and then like, and they don't even go. It's like it takes the hound throwing a rock at the lake for them to like start going. So it's like he threw the rock, and then they said, "Oh, we can walk." It wasn't like, you know, like this is the time. But yeah, it was weird. It was weird. Like, it's very confusing. It's like it's inconsistent. So that's my problem. I want to give them credit and like be like, okay, it was planned, so it kind of makes sense. But then in other ways, it kind of doesn't.
I think it's simply like because they said in an interview that they had endpoints or big events already plotted out, and then afterwards they're like, all right, so how do we get there? And then it's like an afterthought, the logistics of how to get there. And that's kind of why you got that whole thing beyond the wall, and then the fire ruse they pulled or whatever. I don't even know what was going on there when the White Walker walked up and there was the fire.
Oh yeah, and he looked totally confused.
Yeah. So it was like he had no idea that they were there. No idea whatsoever.
Yeah. But
I didn't even understand why the Army of the Dead had a scouting party.
It reminded me of the Wizard
who's
of
attacking them?
Oz. It reminded me of the Wizard of Oz when the Scarecrow and the Tin Man, they go to save Dorothy, and like they're hiding and they're looking over like the hill or whatever, and they see the henchmen marching. Like, oh, yeah. That's what it reminded me of.
Yeah. No.
It was kind of weird. Did you think that the guy kind of looked a little bit like Craster?
I didn't think
Who?
about that. The White Walker.
The White Walker that was leading the thing.
I didn't really pay attention, but we know what was happening to Craster's son. So I mean, if they did put that in there, then that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was rewatching it earlier, and that was one of the thoughts that popped into my head when I was watching it.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, that guy kind of looks like Craster.
Yeah.
So can the Night King make anybody like give, because we've seen it give the babies the blue eyes,
Yes.
and I just thought maybe it was only because it was the baby.
I would assume that it is just a baby because like if you look at a baby is like kind of a blank slate human. It doesn't really have memories or any
Right.
of that stuff. So I mean, I don't know. I think it's just baby.
I was thinking that he can only make a White Walker out of a living.
But we've never seen him do. We've only seen him do a baby and the dragon.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
The dragon is a white.
Yeah.
though.
I'm pretty sure that. Yeah.
Oh,
I'm pretty sure the dragon
it.
itself is a white, and
true,
then
true.
I'm pretty sure that with the baby thing that it has something to do with Craster's bloodline. Like that's something that I've thought for a while now because.
That makes sense.
Yeah, Craster could have been, his family could have been doing this for God knows how long. You know what I
Right.
mean? And he's just the boy that survived or something like that. They could have been doing this sacrifice forever, and then the White Walkers just, they weren't there, so the babies were just dying. But something happened recently where they started waking up, and so now they've been collecting the babies.
Yes.
Yeah, I could see that as a possibility, like it's something to do with that bloodline. But yeah, definitely living.
I kind of want to know what happened to that baby.
Mm-hmm.
Like, where is it now?
Which one is it? Is it one of them?
Is it like a little White Walker toddler?
Yeah. That's one thing that's curious because like, do they grow up like immediately? Do they have like fast, do they grow up like?
Are they like baby then adult?
Yeah, like in The Sims or something. It's just like pop, it's you're an adult now. Yeah, but
What's the lifespan of a White Walker?
Yeah, exactly. Like, do they have like White Walker wet nurses that are like feeding the babies and like what's going on? Like that's never been explored, and I don't expect it to be in the show. Like, there's so much that there's more. That's what I wanted this season. At least a little bit of was a little bit of motive for the others. That's one of the things that I wanted. I wanted to learn a little bit more about what they were doing. And I felt like having Bran there, that was like the opportunity to get it, but they didn't use Bran at all this season. They barely used Bran.
And something you said in your chat or in your review, we don't know anything more about Bran's abilities.
No. It's like we know nothing. Know nothing more. And that was
like
very frustrating.
I feel like they just made him super weird
Mm-hmm.
so they could have some sort of legitimate excuse for him not just to go around telling everybody everything he knows. So that's why we have that frustrating.
Yeah. And to me, they use him as a tool to like show you what's going on with the White Walkers. It's like, like cool White Walker scene, Bran's having a vision, and that's the only time that he's used. And then and apparently
it's really just like skin changing into the Ravens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And apparently there was a deleted scene also that someone was telling me about where Sansa goes and asks Bran for help with the Arya situation. And then he's the one that sets it all up. So they didn't know from the beginning. Like they cut that scene out for some reason. I don't know why, because it would have made it make a little bit more sense and be a little bit clearer.
There were many things in that episode that could have been cut in lieu of adding that.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't need to watch the Hound go down into the boat and make sure the thing was still alive. Like there's a minute.
Like that was the whole scene. He like went down into the boat. He stared at it for like 30 seconds in a row.
It moved, and then that was it.
It screamed. The scene ended.
Yeah, that was.
I don't know.
I mean, okay, but back to the Night King for a second though, and the White Walkers like crossing the wall.
Okay.
Yeah, for the show, like what they've shown us, it looks like they have trouble crossing salt water. That's what it seems like. That's what it seemed like from Hardhome. And then with the lake, I assume that the lake was saltwater, and that's the reason they couldn't just cross it, hop across, or jump across. It would make sense if it was saltwater, but then again, you get White Walkers pulling on Tormund out of the water. So like that's another thing that really I was trying to find a way for it to make sense. And by saying that it's saltwater, it kind of makes sense. But if the White Walkers are in the water and they're still like moving around, then that kind of ruins that whole idea. So I'm wondering what's going on there.
It really bothered me that those two learned how to swim miraculously in the middle of. I was like, they sank. They were under the ice. They came back up and tried to pull Tormund in.
Yeah, because like before it looked like the water was like their ultimate bane. They're just falling into the water, falling into the water. Like there's no way they can get across the water. And then all of a sudden we can swim when it's convenient.
When we need them to.
Yeah.
It's like, does Valyrian steel kill whites or not?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, that's another question.
And they didn't swim in Hardhome. That's how they got away, right?
Mm-hmm,
yeah,
exactly.
They stopped right at the water.
So, right.
Mm-hmm, exactly. And
it's ridiculous.
Yeah. So I'm going to look at the chat and see if anybody has any questions.
Somebody just said Bran is Google. I really liked that one a lot.
I mean, basically, you just go to him and he looks something up because that's what Sam did at the end of the episode, right? He's like, "Is that something you can see?" And he's suddenly there.
Yep, it was so that was ridiculous. Just right there. Yep.
Yeah. And then why'd they make Rhaegar look so much like Viserys?
That was terrible.
I was like, Cersei Lannister would never say that individual was the most beautiful human being that ever lived.
He's supposed to look.
He looked like a not as good looking Viserys too.
I know, right? Like like I said, Viserys looked more handsome. I'm just like, that was weird.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was just like a really unflattering angle they shot it from or something.
Yeah, because the kid is like cute. Like I've looked at pictures of him in real life and I was just like, did they put a chin on him or something?
Or like a fake Viserys nose?
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, someone said to me recently, they said that Rhaegar and Lyanna are like the two most selfish characters in the entire story. And he said that Rhaegar was obsessed with fulfilling a prophecy, which I agree with. And that Rhaegar probably manipulated Lyanna into falling in love with him and to running away with him. Because she had to have known the ramifications of what she was doing. You know? I
agree.
Yeah, there's no way that either her or him thought that, yeah, we're just going to get away with it and it's going to be fine. And Rhaegar would have understood it even more. Because he's already married to one of the princesses of Dorne, right? So, like, that's just like, you're pissing off Dorne, you're pissing off House Baratheon, you're just like, that would, like, I felt like it was really selfish.
The Starks flipped out, Brandon flipped out at the tourney. Mm-hmm. So, like, they're not going to be happy.
Yeah, absolutely. And
so, this is ridiculous. I say that a lot. I'm like, Ned did love his sister, and he does think about her with love, but there's almost like a slight bitterness to the memory about the whole thing because it changed his entire life.
Yeah. And it's all because of this decision that she made. Now, Rhaegar might have been influenced by outside forces. I have all my crazy theories, but Lyanna was just like, oh, I'm in love and I'm just going to run away. And,
exactly.
Like Rhaegar, there's definitely some weird shit going on with Rhaegar. Behind like why he was actually obsessed with this prophecy, the fact that he was born at Summerhall during the fire, the death of so many people, where Aegon V literally had just like tried to hatch dragon eggs, and then it's just very weird. There's weird circumstances surrounding Rhaegar.
Did his mother survive? Like I was trying to
the birth. I'm not entirely sure actually.
Like what happened there? Well, yeah, she had to have because he stayed married to her. Mm-hmm.
Well,
it's weird. The whole thing is suspect about Summerhall and all that.
Yeah, it's very strange. And then you have what the Ghost of Highheart says about it with Jenny of Oldstone and her story. See, I have a theory that the Ghost of Highheart is actually the daughter of Leaf from one of the Children of the Forest, and that Jenny of Oldstone is actually her daughter, the Ghost of Highheart's daughter, and that's why she loved her so much, and that's why she wants to hear Jenny's song. And she says, I gorged on grief at Summerhall because she lost her daughter. That also explains why she has the red eyes and she gets the green dreams and all of that stuff.
Right.
So that's my little crazy theory. Someone says, what happened to Bronn and Pod? What do you mean what happened to Bronn and Pod? Bronn was in the last episode.
Well, yeah, because then when they're going in the dragon pit, Bronn is not feeling those dragons.
Uh-huh.
And he was like, all right, let's get out of here, Pod, in case some crap goes down here.
Oh.
You know, like he was like later. I don't know what happened to them.
They're probably still drinking.
Yeah.
He took them to a brothel.
My thing is, but Bronn said, like, in episode 4 that he was done, that he was just over it. And then he's back in this episode, just like, okay, I'll help this one time. One last time. I'm like, you just said you were done with it. What are you doing?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I'll back up from the mic. I'm not. I have a loud voice.
No, it's fine.
Sorry. So what was your favorite part of the season, Quinn?
Oh, God. It had to be Daenerys on the field of fire. Like that, I felt like that scene just...
Yeah.
I got chills when Jaime looks up and he says we can hold them back, and then you hear the dragon screech and it plays the Targaryen theme song and it's like, oh, she says the cars. That was awesome. Also, that ending scene, this episode was pretty sick. That was pretty sick. That was a good scene. Except for
the Night King.
Yeah, I felt like Tormund should have died though. They've given him a little bit too much plot armor.
Yeah, he'll be back, right? Or
yeah, I'm pretty sure he's still alive and that he's gonna be back next season. So. But I'm sick of Tormund. I'm not sick of Tormund. I like Tormund. I just feel like with that White Walker scene in the last episode where he was like, when there's like 5 of them on him, he should have been dead. And then when the walls crumble in pieces, I don't buy that he's just like one of the few that survives. Like, how much plot armor does this guy have?
You know what we were saying last night would have been a cool twist? Like, all of them die except for like Tormund and Gendry.
Yeah.
That would have been realistic. Like, see you guys.
Yeah. And what happened to the Night's Watch this season?
Nowhere to be found. They were at the beginning. We see Ed. That's like the only... But you see, someone said that Ed is really like the only member of the Night's Watch that we would even recognize at this point. The rest of them are just nobodies. Like, because they killed off everyone else. Everyone else is gone. And Jon's not there anymore.
That is true.
Mm-hmm.
I guess technically Sam's kind of a Night's Watchman.
I mean, kind of. I mean,
I don't really know what Sam's doing at this point.
Who knows?
He just kind of does whatever he wants.
Yeah, he does not. He does not give a fuck. Like Sam is just the. I don't even know what to call him. I don't even.
Does
know.
he still have Heartsbane?
He should. And see, that's the thing. They didn't mention that all this entire season, and he stole the sword last season. Like Randall Tarley didn't mention it. He didn't even try to go look for it.
He went off to war without it.
Yeah, that's just really weird to me. And then the thing is, Sam told him where he was going. Like, Sam was like, I'm going to the Citadel to be a maester. And you didn't even go, like, send somebody to look and see if your son's there with your sword?
It's not even that far away. I mean, it's not the
right
closest
there.
spot in the reach to Old Town, but it's like, you're in the right vicinity anyways.
It's not far at all. He could have sent, like, a party or, like just somebody to go and look for this sword. And then Sam, it's not like Sam was even using an alias or anything. Just going by his real name. Just go there and be like, Samwell Tarley. And it's like, oh, yeah, take him until he gives... Yeah, find him and capture him and get the sword. I mean, it wouldn't be that hard, I don't think.
No. I was expecting to see Randall do something.
Mm-hmm.
Except for sacrifice himself for a lady who sat on the throne without actually having...
Yeah. Dude,
a claim to it.
Randall's reasoning was weird, dude. Like, he's like a foreign. He's saying that Daenerys is foreign. Daenerys was born on Dragonstone. She's not foreign. First of all, I'm just like, what are you even? The Targaryens ruled Westeros for like 300 years. Like, what are you talking about? Like, that just made no sense to me. Like, that was a stupid reason. And then Dickon...
He was determined to get burned.
I mean, really, yeah. And then people were talking shit about like Daenerys' method for execution, and I'm just like, you know, they died in like 3 seconds. Like, I'd rather die like that than be hanged and then like choked to death. You know?
Yeah. So there's much worse things that can happen than dying in 1 second from something.
Yeah.
It's like case in point, Theon.
Yeah, exactly. You know, so the White Walkers are through the wall. So you think, well, next season we have to get like a battle at Winterfell, right? You know,
I feel like that's clearly what they're gearing it up for. Mm-hmm. Sansa was talking about getting all the food there and stuff for half of the season.
Yeah. So, like, we're going to see Sansa and Arya's reaction to the Night King and the armies of the undead, and Arya's going to kill the Night King and wear his face and trick all the other White Walkers into following her instead. No, that's...
I've actually been wondering if killing the Night King just kills all of them.
That's what it seems like, because then they bring that up in episode 6, like when they kill the one, and then the rest and those die, and then they look over at the Night King and they say, "Well, he raised all of them, so that's the one we should take out." But I'm pretty sure
That
that's
seems like it's too simple to me, but
it does, doesn't it? But
it just makes me feel like that can't possibly be true.
I would not put it past what's going on the show now, and I feel like people wouldn't even care. People, because that's the thing, people do not care. Like people do not care about any of like the logical inconsistencies or any of that. Like I read the comments on my videos, and people are just like, I get the same comments over and over again. It's a fantasy show. It's got dragons and White Walkers. Why does this have to make sense? Why does that have to make sense? They don't care about it being consistent or logical or any of that. It doesn't matter.
I was like, it had dragons in it in season 3, and it made sense.
Yeah, exactly.
I was like, it's like now they're just doing a bunch of special effects and hoping that we don't notice that the things that led to the special effects didn't really make sense.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm curious to see Sansa's reaction to the army of the undead and see if she'll actually be capable in the face of all that. Because we got talk about like how Winterfell can like there's something at Winterfell also, I think. Like Winterfell is the oldest castle in Westeros. There's something important there. I don't know if I don't know if it's Lightbringer, the original Lightbringer sword, or something like that. I don't know if that's going to be in the show though. But I know I'm hoping for a similar thing at Winterfell in the books as to what's happening in the show, because I want to see a battle at Winterfell, because we talk about how Ned Stark said that 500 men in Winterfell could hold it against like 10,000 on the outside. It's badass castle, and I want to see how they use it.
I think 2 huge curtain walls, like one 80 feet and the other one's like 100 or something like that, or maybe it's 70 and 90 or something like that. It's huge.
I want to see how that holds up against the others, but they've got giants though. They do got giants. So we saw 1-1 last season and how effective he was, and they've got undead giants. So this is like kind of an even bigger problem, and they got several of them. You look at this, you look at that scene, and it's like, how are they going to stop this? Because the Night King Dragon, he can obviously fly it way faster than Daenerys can fly Drogon. Because I guess he's stronger and he can hold on because the dragon's not going as fast when Daenerys is on it. But he's whipping that thing around like shh. So it's faster.
Where are the saddles?
The saddles, yeah, good point.
I was like, I kept thinking that Tyrion and his specialty saddle knowledge was going to bring it up at some point, but it just never happened.
Yeah, all I know is Daenerys needs to get some serious armor for those dragons, because like the Night King, his javelin skills are kind of on point. So, yeah.
I don't understand why he didn't kill Drogon.
Yeah, that was another point that I had. Drogon's right there, and he's bigger than the other two. And he's got Daenerys on him.
And everyone was about to get away on top of him.
Yeah, exactly. Take that one out, and then, like, you take that dragon out, that means that, the other two are probably going to have to, like, fly down to, like, try and pick Daenerys up again or something like that. Then take those two out, and then you've got no competition. You've got 3 white dragons, and you can march on the realms of men, and you can kick ass and just take everybody out,
Or just line up a bunch of your little javelins in a row so then you can load in less than 6 minutes.
Exactly. Exactly. Like it's like he took forever to like try and like get the other javelin. It took forever, right? Like
I feel like Jon killed like 19 whites in the amount of time it took him to like have his buddy walk up and hand him another one.
Yeah, I agree. It was very, very odd. It was very strange. And then the fact that he missed Drogon was a little weird too.
Because he was just taking flight too. It's not like he was bobbing and weaving.
Yeah, he was closer than Viserion. Viserion was like a mile in the air at least. Like, and I'm just like, and Drogon was closer, and that was just weird. See, and I don't know what, and I get it. Like, I get it. I totally get it. The showrunners, they are in a tough place. They're in a tough place, and I feel bad for them, but at the same time, I kind of don't feel bad for them because, it was their decision to, rush it. And, and George R. R. Martin talked about from the very beginning, the butterfly effect. Like, about how the little stuff they were changing in the beginning would have, greater implications on, like, the ending of the story. Like, these were all their decisions. It was their decision to cut so much from Storm and to cut so much from a Clash of Kings and to cut so much from they cut a lot. They did Game of Thrones for the most part, but then they cut a lot from the rest of the books, especially Dance and Feast. That's where a lot of the cutting happened in Dance and Feast. That was their decision. So I feel bad that they're out of material and that they're in a tough place, but at the same time they chose to do it.
I kind of feel like they could have almost, it doesn't matter that it's out of order. They could have drawn from what was already in the books and introduced the plot lines that they had yet to do as well.
It doesn't, there's so many different ways they could have done it. And I know that it wasn't HBO saying that we need to end this. Because HBO, they're a corporation. They're gonna milk it for like however much it's worth. It was
absolutely.
It was D&D saying that we're tired of this, and even though we want to keep our names on it forever, we want to end it. They don't want to pass it off to someone else that can continue writing the story and put detail and effort into it. It showed.
I would really like them to do that.
I would too, but it showed a lot this season. Because they're working on what's the new show they're doing, Confederate, whatever. They're working on that now, and you can see that they spent some time on that and that they took effort away from writing these scripts. Because this season was probably like the worst script so far. Like this is probably like this season, like they just threw all logic out the window. Like they did not care at all about that. Which is fine. They've turned it into something else. They've turned Game of Thrones into like this flashy show, which is fine, I guess. But don't expect me to praise it like the same way that I was praising earlier seasons, because I feel like people want me to praise mediocrity, and that's another thing that I'm just not going to do.
I almost feel like a lot of the changes that they've made over the years were designed to expand the market for the product.
Mm-hmm.
It was originally definitely geared towards, I would say, like relatively politically astute. I mean, you had to be able to follow the political landscape of the show in order to understand what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
And then I feel like as they wanted to branch out, most people are not very political or don't spend all their time thinking about things like a politician would.
Yeah.
And so they wanted to simplify the story to make it more marketable.
Yeah, they're catering towards a wider audience, and I totally get it, and I totally understand it. But that doesn't mean that I can't resent it. I definitely resent it because I feel like it got dumbed down so much. Like those first 3 or 4 seasons, it's just like they're not cutting you any breaks. Got to pay attention, I got so many people to watch it, and I always say, this show is so fucking good. This is just such a fucking good show. You're not gonna be disappointed. And then now I'm like almost embarrassed. Then I'm just like, no, it doesn't make any sense.
I was like, but really seriously though, then you should read the books, people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh yeah. I've gotten so many of my friends to not only watch the show but to read the books as well, which is great because I have other people to talk about it. Q&A: Why Jon Snow hates Brienne? Kit Harington said in an interview that he was convicted. Does Jon Snow hate Brienne? Is it something? Does he?
Kit Harington did say that in an interview that secretly he hates Brienne for some
when
reason.
all the characters were asked who they would want to kill.
Uh-huh.
And Jon Snow said Brienne of Tarth.
Why?
And the guy goes, "Why?" And he's like, Jon Snow secretly hates Brienne. You'll never see why on camera, but he just hates her.
Was he making a joke?
No, I don't think so. Like
it didn't seem like it was. The only thing I can think of is that he did seem quite fond of Stannis, and she's the one who killed him.
Uh-huh.
So maybe
that is the weirdest thing.
How can you not like Brienne of Tarth? I was like,
and then I was like, maybe the actor doesn't like the act. Like, but Kit seems like a good guy. I don't know.
Yeah, he seems good. You never know. You're
right.
With celebrities. Right. Celebrities that you think are douchebags can be like the best people, and then just people that you think are nice might be assholes. Who knows?
Exactly.
Yeah. Wow. Like someone says, can Bran just go back in time to the time of the Long Night and see how the last hero defeated the White Walkers? It seems like he could if he can see like Jon Snow's birth on command, then why not? Why not? Why not? Really, why not? Like they haven't given any explanation. But see,
Yeah, I would like to see him starting to give me visions that actually matter.
yeah.
I was like, instead of just like,
Look at the scary White Walkers.
or like, look at this baby being born. I was like, I don't want. I was like, that's great. I'm happy that you guys showed me this. I was like, but I want to see something important that Bran is looking at. I was like, it's like, show me some Children of the Forest stuff, or some Dawn of Days stuff, or some Valyrian stuff, or like use him to do something really cool.
Yeah, people know that I was looking forward to Bran stuff this season more than anything. I was hoping beyond hope that they were gonna just show me some stuff that we have not seen before, like something that was gonna reveal something about the nature of the others that we just didn't know. And I just found it really disappointing that they didn't give us anything. They gave us nothing. They gave us nothing new on that end. Really, like the others are coming and they're still coming and they've been coming for 7 seasons. Like we've always known that they were gonna get past the wall at one point in time. Like I just felt I was just really let down by Bran in particular. And the Winterfell story, the Winterfell plot really let me down in general. It was the worst. For me, it was the worst. The entire season. It was the worst plot.
Littlefinger has been a wall ornament for like a season and a half. He just leans and stares really creepily at people.
Yeah.
On any random wall that they could find in Winterfell for him to lean against.
I'm just like, what was his plot? What was his plan? Like why didn't he leave as soon as Bran said chaos is a letter? You should have left then. You should have just left. You should have just been like,
True.
nope. Because obviously he knows something. He looked you dead in your eyes and said what you were thinking. Chaos is a letter. Something that you said before in King's Landing.
It's like he quoted you from your conversation with Varys 5 years ago. I was like, you should have been like, I've done a lot of bad things, and Santa Claus here seems to know that I've been naughty, so I got to get out of here.
Yeah. I just felt like Littlefinger was really, really dumb. But one thing that I do know is that Arya fucking sucks. I'm not afraid to say it. I don't care if you like Arya. She sucks. I don't care. She fucking sucks. Like she's sucked for several seasons at this point. Just freaking accepted. The character's super cringy. Nothing she does makes sense. She's fucking annoying. I totally agree with what Sansa said at the end. She's weird and fucking annoying. And like I don't get it.
I really like Book Arya a lot. Too.
Yeah, she's great.
I just feel like they can't make up their mind with like. I was like, first, Arya seemed like she'd made a decision. She's going to be Arya of House Stark. I'm leaving the House of Black and White and I'm going home.
Yeah.
Then she was a faceless person again and she was killing Walder Frey. And then you're like, then she bumps into Ed Sheeran and you're like, oh God, she's going to kill all these guys. And then she seemed like she was Arya again. She was like smiling and talking to them about their kids.
Yeah.
And then in the next scene, she was being super creepy with Hot Pie.
Uh-huh.
It seems like every other scene, she's Arya, and then she's no one. Arya, no one.
There's no consistency whatsoever. And then what really bothered me about season 6 was at the end of it, like she goes to Jaqen and he turns around and he's like, "Now you are no one." And I'm like, explain to me exactly how she's no one. Like how does like what are you talking about?
I was like, and why are there faceless men chasing people through the streets? I was like, when a faceless man kills someone, no one even knew that there was a faceless man there.
Exactly, which is why Arya's like crazy. Like, sword skills make no sense either. That just like if a faceless man has to fight you to kill you, then like that, he's like failed. They kill with poison, and it's super subtle, and no one knows how this person died, and it's super weird. I'm gonna be chasing somebody.
Kate just bit the coin like every other person in the world does.
Exactly.
And he died.
It's not like this isn't canon in the show too. They set this up like in season 2, so like this is canon in the show as well. So
Yeah, with Jaqen just getting to kill every single person that Arya wanted him to at Harrenhal, and no one had a clue who did it.
Yeah, exactly.
then the waif is just like jumping off of buildings, and Arya is somehow running, even though she was like gutted like 3 hours ago.
Oh my effing god! There was this guy, man. Oh, he was really trying to push this, right? He kept saying that because Arya was wearing thick clothing, and that the knife, and that's what saved her from getting penetrated. And I'm just like, dude, you are reaching. You are reaching, and like you literally see her almost bleed out, like on the street. Like she's bleeding so badly, and then like she should have died of infection. Like literally a knife it's like twisted up her freaking organs. Like her organs just like got stirred around like salad or something. and like you're telling me that her clothing was thick, and so she survived it. And this guy just kept arguing with, like, people were like, no, it doesn't make sense. He was arguing for days and days and days. And then he was so mad. He was so mad that no one agreed with him and no one bought his idea, that he was commenting on every single video. Just pissed the fuck off at anything that I said. He was just pissed off at everything that I said. And so I blocked him, and that was it. I was like, dude, you can't. I'm sorry. Your idea doesn't make sense. But it's okay.
I totally loved how the random actress lady just happened to be like the greatest healer of all time too. She was like better than Maester Luwin or any Maester in Westeros. She's like, oh, you have 46 stab wounds to the abdomen. I'm just going to wrap some bandages on it. I used to always stab my boyfriend, so I'm really good at this. And you're like, wow, that's convenient.
She's clearly a witch. She clearly used magic potions on Arya.
I don't know if you've ever actually... We have a theory, if you will, that Rose of Red Lake was Bran the Builder's mother.
Mm-hmm.
And we thought that because she's the founder of House Crane, that was kind of like a little... poetry, how Lady Crane and Arya were getting along, because she was a shapeshifter and a skin changer.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of feel like that could be where the Stark direwolf connection might come from.
And how Arya can change her whole being, like when she puts on a face,
mm-hmm.
like her size, her weight, height, hair, voice.
Yeah, everything changes.
Yep.
Like a complete shapeshifter.
Yeah, because we see with in season 2 with Jack and Hagar, like the only thing that changes is his face. Like everything else stays the same. Yeah, and I mean that's a cool idea.
Right.
But I don't know if I can give the showrunners enough credit for that. Enough credit for. I really think that the reason Arya changes in the show is just because of plot convenience. But I do like the idea. I do like it a lot.
But I kind of feel like, in order for what's his name there, Jaqen, to become Pate.
Uh-huh.
I mean, he stays as Pate for the entirety of the book.
Mm-hmm.
And he's still Pate at the end when Sam gets there.
Yes. So
you would have to, like, literally, it can't just be like your face that changes. Like everything about you would have to change, to your voice, You're
right.
And I was like, and the way that when Arya takes her first face, like that flood of memories and all that stuff comes in, I feel like when you take the face, like a part of that person's, like, I don't know, goes into you or whatever. So you can, like, answer questions appropriately, know who this person is that you should know who they are.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to pass yourself off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do think it's more than the face. You do gain a part of that person's being when you take the face. That's why you have to be no one. That's exactly why you have to be no one. You have to be no one to become someone else. Fully become someone else. That's kind of the idea. I'm not sure what Arya is. I'm not sure if she's...
I have a question for you.
Sure.
What do you think Melisandre's doing in Volantis?
Oh God, that's where the biggest Red Priesthood temple is. Uh-huh. So I think she's going there to talk to some of those people about what's going on. Like I'm hoping that we get I want to next season we're probably gonna get Kinvara showing up again. We'll probably get conversations between Kinvara and Melisandre. Yeah, it's kind of like, what was the point of her? Like, why did they show her? Just like off-brand.
We already have Melisandre for that.
Yeah, it's like, it's a Melisandre too.
Yeah, exactly.
They just wanted to show Varys, like, cry for his mommy one more time.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think she's going there to, like, pretty much just let them know what's going on and to give them like an update about what's going on in the north and with the White Walkers and all that stuff, because maybe they can help in some way. Because Melisandre definitely seems to want to, help the realm and to stop the others. So I would assume that this is the goal of, the rest of the Red Priesthood as well. If they are, as long as there's no kind of like schism in their organization, I'm pretty sure they have like a similar goal because they're worshiping like the Red God. So I assume she's going there. She's going to talk to them. She's going to come back to Westeros. She's going to sacrifice herself in some way to do something, and that's going to be the end of Melisandre's story.
I want to see the Red Priests show up because they all seem to be able to work fire magic.
Mm-hmm.
I was like Melisandre kills Orl's eagle with some sort of fireball that burned it.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, what was his name? Bacaro?
Yeah.
Macaro.
No, the one that was in Volantis.
Macaro.
No, that was the guy.
Oh, Benaro.
Yeah.
I was like, yes. I was like, he can like make fire come out of his fingertips, and he can draw shapes in the air and make the fire stay there. I was like, let's get these guys who can make fire appear in the balls of their hands to throw some fireballs at some whites or something. That would be some epic television right there.
Yeah, I like. See, that's something that like I think that a lot of people haven't considered, like the Red Priesthood and their like role in the fighting. I think they'd be useful against the undead because of the fire magic, and they're resistant to the cold. Well, at least Melisandre is. They're kind of like. Lucifer Means Lightbringer, who's a YouTuber on YouTube, and he has this podcast. He has this idea that Melisandre is, transitioning into a being that sustains itself on pure fire, and that is pure fire. And then he argues that, perhaps this is what the others were in the beginning. They were just, fire mages, in the sense that Melisandre is a not fire mages, but an ice mage, in the sense that Melisandre is a fire mage. And that over time, they just kind of, became, beings of pure ice. Because, Melisandre, she's being sustained by the fire. She doesn't eat. She doesn't really need to sleep. So she's being sustained by fire. And, that was his idea, that she was kind of like becoming something like that. But I don't know about that. It's an interesting thought, though.
Yeah. Do you think Melisandre, like, so is she like dead?
I don't think she's dead. I think that she's just long lived. I think it's the ruby, if it is even really a ruby, Right. Like I think that there's potential that it is a piece of the Bloodstone Empress Stone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's an idea that I thought of. Because we kind of just assume that it's a ruby. Well, she does say it's a ruby, but I don't know if it really is.
Yeah, and that's what she uses to glamour Mance.
Yeah,
in the books anyway.
The ruby is definitely connected to her power in some way, because when what's his name is burning. What's his name?
Rattleshire.
Yeah, Rattleshire. When he's burning, the ruby's hot. She can feel it. It almost burns her. Like she feels like it's gonna blacken her skin. So like to me that says that there's power in the ruby, and it's not necessarily her power. And also when man shows up, when he comes to her, like she says, she feels the ruby stir at the closeness of its slave,
Mm-hmm.
He's a slave to the ruby, not necessarily a slave to her. So I feel like this ruby was given to her by someone, and it has that power in it. And that's why she appears to be young. That's why she can live so long. So I think it's the ruby that's sustaining her. There's something crazy about that ruby that's going on. Maybe we'll figure that out later on. But it's definitely that's definitely George's idea. Like I don't think that just like that was one thing in the show, Melisandre being really old, that's definitely George's idea. And the reason that I think that is because in the book, she clearly says that I've practiced my art for years beyond count, and I'm better than anyone else in my order. That would make sense if she was just like 20, 30 years old, like she appears to be.
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah, she seems like she's got to be at least 100 or so.
Yeah. Or older. I've heard people say
Maybe
that.
Even older.
Yeah, I've heard people say that she's actually from the time of Old Valyria, that she's even that old. But, that remains to be seen.
We think that she might be Shiara's Sea-Star.
Interesting. I haven't heard that one.
She has the same heart-shaped face. Like, her physical description is exactly the same, except her eyes are red and her hair is red instead of green and blue and platinum blonde.
Yeah, that's true. Well, maybe like maybe something happened to her that turned her eyes red and turned her hair red. You know, I wouldn't like. I don't feel like that ruins the theory at all because I mean,
True.
hair dye. Sansa dyes her hair, so we know hair dye is a thing in this series. She could
Hmm.
be dyeing it. Like her eyes could be red because of the ruby or some other magic or anything really. We
I
don't
was
know.
thinking it could very well be part of her glamour.
Yeah, it could be part. Yeah, exactly. It could be part of the glamour as well. That's totally a thing. Uh, yeah,
And it matches like the color of the ruby, like how you were saying, like so you're almost a slave to it.
yeah,
The way that
exactly.
the eyes are blue, and you're now a slave to the Night King.
Yeah, exactly.
Didn't John look at her and say that she is fire and blood, or blood and fire? He said it.
Yeah.
He said
Yeah.
it backwards, I think,
Mm-hmm.
just so it wouldn't be super obvious.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Because then we
Definitely.
got to thinking about how Mance Rayder and his cloak beyond the wall. When he said that he wanted to keep the cloak that was made for him by the witch that he met in the little town
Mm-hmm.
beyond the wall, and she had scarlet silk from a shy.
Yes.
And we were thinking about how who was that lady? Was that Melisandre as Shiara Seastar looking for Blood Raven? And is that how she ended up with Stannis? Because we have this kind of theory that Mance and Stannis were in on things way before they met and the attack happened at the wall.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it's all in our. I think it's the Wars to Come series.
Yeah, that's a complicated one. It has something in like a Cliff Notes version of it. It has mostly to do with the fact that Stannis didn't seem to try to kill very many wildlings when he hit them.
Yeah.
It was like he hit them hard and like a quadruple envelopment from all four sides at once with cavalry and killed less than 1% of the people there.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was really shocking how few casualties. And it seemed also like the worst of the worst wildlings seemed to somehow be the ones that didn't make it.
Yeah. That is true.
It was like it seemed, and then they talked for like hours and hours and hours for
Mm-hmm.
some reason. I can't even imagine Stannis Baratheon having a conversation that lasts longer than 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I was like, it just seemed weird to me.
Mm-hmm. Well.
And then the other thing about how Stannis went to a shy to get Melisandre, like I find the probability of that like 0.
Mm-hmm.
He's
Yeah.
just Stannis,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the connection there, and then there's the Dalla connection, but I guess we can talk books another time. But
Yeah, we got a little carried away.
sorry.
No, it's totally fine. One thing I find interesting about Melisandre is that she's not just a servant of the Red God; she's also a shadow binder. So she's probably been to the Heart of Darkness and been to, been upriver and shit like that.
Mm-hmm.
So she's like doubly trained. She's got two different forms of power.
You know what was really disappointing when I figured this out only a couple weeks ago, and I don't. Did you know that the shadow is called the shadow simply because it's in the shadow? I thought it was like this super creepy place where like there was no light ever for
Oh.
like a good reason, for like some creepy magical reason.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was on the app clicking on all the maps, and it just said because it's in the shadow of the mountain. And I was like, that's so disappointing. I thought it was like this creepy, terrible magic that sucked all the light out of the air.
Well, there's also the ash. There's
Yes.
there's ash that keeps it in perpetual darkness as well. So that's also why I think it's probably true that there are still dragons that are there because we know dragons come from volcanoes and Bran sees
Mm-hmm.
dragons and stirring in the shadow, which is very interesting. What's interesting about the shadow itself is that according to the world of Ice and Fire, there is a legend that the Valyrians were actually, given the knowledge of magic and how to tame dragons from people from a place called the Shadow.
Yeah, they were like so old they didn't have a name and then they disappeared. Something like that.
Yeah, exactly. And how would they get there? How would they get from Valyria to back to the Shadow quickly? With dragons. Maybe they rode dragons. I know the thing is, Quaithe, she introduces herself to Daenerys as Quaithe of the Shadow. She doesn't say I'm from a shy by the shadow. She says I'm from the shadow. You know, and I always found it interesting that Quaithe um, is like, you know, kind of like a mentor to Daenerys, the Dragon Princess, and then there's also this legend about people from the shadow teaching these other people how to tame dragons, people that Daenerys is descended from. It I'm pretty convinced that it was Quaithe all along since book one that was, you know, sending Daenerys those dreams and telling her to wake the dragon, and, you know, subtly giving her these instructions on how to do so. Because if you look at this stuff, you know, Daenerys wakes up that last time after that last fever dream, after the baby's dead. She already knows that the baby's dead. Like, she doesn't even need to be told that it's dead. She already knows it. She knows exactly what to do. She ties Miriam's door to the pyre. She puts the dragon eggs there. She walks into it. Like all of it, it's like she's gotten knowledge from some other place. Something
Yes,
is giving her this information.
we talked about that in our Dany videos and the old powers that are waking, and how she was acting with such deliberance. Like she knew exactly what to do, and she didn't hesitate at all.
Exactly.
It was like
she already knew that it was exactly what was going to happen when she did.
Yeah, and like when they said, you know, she was giving out they were putting Khal Drogo's things on the funeral pyre, and they went to put some of hers, and she's like, no, I'm gonna need those. Like, she had no fear that tomorrow wasn't gonna be there, like, come for her, you know, because I don't know, she had some like ancient wisdom bestowed upon her, like in that fever dream or something.
Yeah, and the reason that I think it makes sense for it to be Quaithe is because we know Quaithe has the glass candle, which can be used to communicate with people through their dreams. And then just the fact that Quaithe keeps showing up. She literally shows up in the next book, and she's giving Daenerys all these warnings, telling her to beware of people, giving her instructions. You know, I think it was Quaithe the entire time. I do.
There's something about Quaithe that makes me not trust her, though.
Oh, really?
Because I actually, I don't want to go too much into it because we're actually about to go into and do our first ever Quaithe videos. But she gives Dany some advice that I feel like some of it ends up being true, because you can't just lie to someone over and over again and get influence with them. You have to, like, very similar to the way that, like, the three-eyed crow gave Bran a nugget or two here or there. I was like, and it kind of drew him in and gained the crow influence over Bran. It's like, I feel like Quaithe gives her a couple, like, beware the perfume seneschal and like all those things, but she also literally not to trust every single person.
Yeah.
I was like, and that set off a red flag in my mind. I was like, because some of the people, we know who they are, and I was like, Quentin Martell is not coming to kill you or hurt you. He's trying to get you to unite with Dorne. Like, you don't need to be. She didn't need to beware of him. It's like,
it's almost like she's saying, trust everyone. No, don't trust anyone but me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
She wanted her, like, isolated, so the only person that she listened to was her. I was like, there was something creepy about the way that she was advising her that I did not like. And I just kind of felt like she was helping her a little bit and then paralyzing her by making her fear everybody around her.
You know, it's questionable what Quaithe wants. Quaithe could, okay, so Quaithe is trying to get Daenerys. She's saying to go east. To go west, you must go east and all this stuff. And Daenerys thinks that she wants her to go to Asshai. But then I'm like, why would Quaithe want Daenerys to come to Asshai? The only reason that I can think of is that Quaithe needs those dragons. She needs the dragons, or at least one of them, because she wants to do some weird, crazy, fucked up magic in Asshai with them. You know? Or like...
And then I wonder about Bran's falling dream from, what was that, Bran 2 or Bran 3 in Game of Thrones, where he's falling from, like, outer space or something. He's falling forever for thousands of miles or whatever the heck he's saying.
Yes.
And then he starts seeing all over the world, and he looks up north and he sees something that's so terrible that it makes his tears burn on his face. I don't know what he saw up there. And then he looked east and east and east and east and saw dragons. And that seemed like he was looking in the Riverlands, and he could see Arya really pissed off about what went down with Joffrey, and Sansa crying herself to sleep, and Ned brooding like he does. I was like, all the stuff that he was seeing seemed to be live. He saw Catelyn in her boat going across the Bight. He saw Roderick puking over the edge. But then he saw dragons, and that seemed like that had to be in real time, just like everything else was.
Yeah.
And then it made me wonder why the heck all of these dark forces in the world weren't already awake when they seem to have partially awoken, or more been awoken anyways, from the presence of Dany's dragons, especially in Karth.
Yeah.
I was like, it was very confusing to me about how that all worked.
I think that it was the comet for the most part. I think that being in the vicinity of dragons does do something to increase, magic, but I think that the reason that the dragons were even able to be hatched was because of the comet.
We are firm believers that dragons' existence in the world is tied to cosmic events. It's actually what our original "how the dragons came into the world" theory
Interesting.
is. It's like we think it. We actually tried. Usually, when we try to do stuff, we like try to combine all of the legends and see how many pieces of the individual ones can be put together into something that makes sense. Sort of. I was like, so we like combined all 4 of the dragon legends into like a second moon solar eclipse that shattered the moon due to Lightbringer being forged when Nissa Nissa cracked the moon. And then dragons poured forth into the world. It's more complicated than that, but off the top of my head, that's about as good as I can do.
See, yeah. And see, the thing is about dragons bringing magic back is that if Bran did see dragons in a shy in the east, that means there were already dragons. So like the nearest dragons aren't the first existing dragons in the world in this time. There were already dragons already before hers were even born that were living. So it had to be something else. It had to be something else that made magic stronger.
That's what I keep thinking too, especially since like we already know that the White Walker clearly already woke up well before the dragons were hatched. I was like, we see the White Walker in the prologue of the first book.
They've been active for decades at least because they've been taking Craster's sons.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's very. I've tried working out in my head like 90 times, trying to figure out when the magic came back into the world. And the only thing I can think of is that the Maesters are full of crap and it never left.
I don't think it ever left because, the Children of the Forest. The Children of the Forest have magic. They've been doing magic this entire time. It never left. It might have gotten weaker. It might have gotten weaker for some reason, but the comet, I think, brought it back. The comet was the reawakening. This is it's kind of like this is the season of magic. It's blossoming. You've got winter and summer and all this stuff, but you've also got this season. This is when everything, kind of goes crazy for a little bit. And then by the end of this season, it'll maybe kind of fade away and dwindle again. But it'll never like completely leave. There'll still be a little bit of it somewhere.
I would like that to be the case. I keep trying to work out what the heck the actual end game could be. I mean, we're of a mind that it's going to be more than just a fight against evil demon White Walkers versus humanity. We would tend to lump the people who seem to worship death around the world in on the side of people who they're calling it a war for life itself. So if you worship death, it seems like you would be an unlikely person to be an ally for the forces of life.
Yeah.
So like the Faceless Men would be somebody who would be fighting on the side of death, or the creepiest of creepy Norvoshi people.
Yeah.
Who kill anybody who even finds out what they worship. That can't be good.
You'd wonder why, because with the armies of the dead, it's like that's not you. You don't have any free will. You don't have your memories. You're just the lifeless. You're corpse. You're nothing. Like why would anybody worship something like that? That's what's weird. But that's the thing. I think that the White Walkers are just misunderstood. I don't think they want to, raise the armies of the dead. They're just using it as a tool. It's part of what their magic is, but they're just using it as a tool to get whatever they want. And I think that back in the day that the White Walkers invaded, the realms of men for some reason that's not yet been revealed. They could have been provoked by some way. They could have been provoked, and so they're just like, "Fuck you, we're invading," because that's exactly what Aegon did. Aegon was just provoked, and he was like, "You know what? Fuck you, I'm taking everything over." So maybe that's what happened then. Like someone pissed them off, and they were like, "You know what? I'm taking over this kingdom. Fuck you." And so they marched on the realms of men, and then in the end, they and the Children of the Forest and mankind, they made a pact, and the White Walkers went back. And I think that something happened, recently. The pact was breached, and so the White Walkers have been building their army, and they're striking again because they're just like, "Fuck you again," and we're taking this shit. This time we're really gonna take it, and we're not fucking backing down. That's what I think's going on for the most part.
I've been trying to figure out what motivates them, and the only thing that holds me back from thinking that there could be like a peaceful way to work it out is the fact that White Walkers, at least in the books anyways, they bring nighttime and cold with them.
Yeah.
I was like, so humanity and White Walkers could never coexist in the same place because they would starve to death.
Yeah.
I was like, so there has to be, that's like the one part of my brain that I can't wrap around how there could end up being anything other than basically an all-out war with them. Because I was like, how could you negotiate with somebody that you literally cannot coexist with physically?
Yeah, that's really true. Well, what if their world's getting too hot, or wherever they came from is getting too hot, and so they're just coming to Westeros because winter is coming? I don't know. See, that's the thing. Like, do they bring the cold, or does the cold, or the saying? Do they bring the cold, or does the cold come because of fuck?
I know what you're saying.
We
though.
know
what I'm saying.
Do they make it cold, or does the cold just seem to come with them, or something like that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, people get what I'm saying. So yeah, that's the thing. I think they do make it cold though, because there's talk in the book about like how like when the White Walkers are around, like you can barely breathe because it's so cold. But
absolutely. Even in the very, very, very first scene,
mm-hmm.
In the prologue, we're in the ranger's head that was up there hugging the tree when Bronzion Royce's son was making his final stand there, and they all commented about why did it just get so cold?
Yeah, but still, I feel like they must also be subject to the seasons. They can't just attack at any time. They're waiting for winter. You know what I'm saying? They're waiting for the right time to strike. I don't think their magic would necessarily work in like the Summer Isles. I think they'd be weaker. I think they'd be a lot weaker.
I've actually always wondered why there seems to be a legend of the Long Night everywhere but the Summer Isles. It makes me wonder if it wasn't dark on the entirety of the planet or something like that, and it was just dark on the known world.
And the Summer Isles was just, it was always summer.
Because it's so far south, it's on the other side. It's like, how like the seasons are reversed, if you will.
Yeah. Can I say that the Summer Isles just seems like the most laid back place ever? That's where I want to be. Like they're all chilling. They're not fighting each other. They're just all having sex and just being fine. Everyone's good.
Right.
Summer all the time.
Tyrion wishes he could worship their faith.
Yeah, I was like, they worship like a fertility god.
Yeah, they're all chilling.
They're all just chilling.
Yeah, that's where you want to go. I might do Dorne, but then there's too much. There's too much.
There's no water there. Everybody's always like trying to kill each other for a well.
Yeah, it's like painfully hot in Dorne. I'm just like, no, I can't do this. Can't do this.
Nah, I don't think I could do it.
But the legends of the Long Night are interesting, though. There's a lot of different ones. There's a lot of different legends of how it started. There's a lot of different legends about, how it ended. We're just like we're just seeing like the Westerosi side of it. We're seeing like the last hero that's like old Nan's tale about how it happened and the Children of the Forest and all this. But then on the other side of the world, you got the girl with the monkey's tail. You've got the Song of the Gods that's bringing back the dawn or whatever. How it goes.
Oh yeah, from the Roynish there.
Mm-hmm. You got like
Word.
Hakrun the hero and Azor Ahai and a bunch of different ones. Got a bunch of different ones. So we don't really know what really happened. Like the only thing that I can think of is that, a bunch of stuff happened. There were multiple people that did multiple things, in different parts of the world that, kind of all added up to the same thing. And they just kind of, thousands of years later built legends. Because this is very remote. This time period is very remote from when the Long Night actually happened. We're talking about thousands of years ago. And you look in the real world and you think about thousands of years ago, like, Jesus Christ. Like, do we really know right now what happened thousands of years ago? Can we really say definitively, like, how anything really went down? We don't know. We barely know.
I always love, like, the historian guy who, like, is sitting there and he's like, and then Alexander the Great turned and said this to this person, and this person said that. I was like, how do you actually know that? I was like, I have a hard time believing that somebody was just following Alexander the Great down, just writing every word that he and everyone said.
Exactly. We don't know anything.
I always think that's so funny when people say stuff like that.
Exactly. And then see, the White Walkers are not evil. Like, that's just my thing. They're not. There's no way that they're just like, we just want to kill people for no reason. And I think that the legends of them probably made them out as more evil, than they really are. Because in the book, the others themselves don't look like how they look in the show in the book. In the book, they're like gorgeous and like otherworldly and just, they're elegant but deadly. And they're different. They're not just like, rah, we're fucking super evil. They don't, it's scary to be in their presence because it's like darkness and cold and all of this, but they're not monsters.
It would have been really cool if they could have somehow, I know they couldn't do it for all of them, but maybe just like do it just with the Night King and have like that reflective, almost like ice armor that they wear, and like the light it plays like tricks on your eye in the night, and you're like, did I see something? I don't even know. That they're like almost like translucent.
Mm-hmm. See, yeah,
that would have been so cool.
And the thing is, the design of the White Walkers did change from from season 1 to like now. They changed it by season 2. Like, they look completely different. If you look at that opening scene of season 1, they look totally different.
That guy looked like, God, I'm drawing a blank. One of the Orokai.
Yeah, he looked more
blue eyes.
They looked more zombie-ish in the first season, kind of. And now they do look more like they're made of ice. But I would have liked to see in the show like a more icy appearance, because they kind of just look like wrinkled blue men. Like yeah,
like really, really, really old blue men.
Yeah. I would have liked to get some more the ice side of them, because when I describe the book version of what they look like to people, I always say they're ice demons. So that's the way you should think of them, like kind of they're ice. And George R. Martin actually describes them as frozen she. She from Irish legends, which he gets a lot of stuff from Irish history and Irish legends. She are like their nature spirits. So he's saying that they're like frozen nature spirits. So they should kind of be like these gorgeous, elegant, beautiful creatures. And, we don't necessarily understand them because, like you said, we couldn't possibly coexist with them. For them to exist, we have to die. For them to prosper, we have to die, and vice versa. We can't coexist. So
that's what I think the original point of the wall was supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
I've thought that before. Like, they get everything north of the wall, and humanity takes everything south of it.
But it was ruined by the wildlings.
And I don't even know, because it seems like, because I've oftentimes thought about how the Thenns live so far up north, and it's not necessarily, I mean, at least when you look on the maps, it's not just like pure white like the rest of the north is. They live in this valley that appears to be almost maybe fertile for part of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And it got me thinking as to whether or not it used to be warm, because the Fist of the First Men was built by men. That's a fortress.
Yes.
Which means that the land wasn't just frozen and worthless. Why would you build a fortress to defend frozen, worthless land? It was like,
Mm-hmm.
that's a huge effort to undergo. So I feel like it used to be not as cold where that is. I
Yeah.
don't know about the Land of Always Winter. I feel like it's called the Land of Always Winter because it was probably literally always cold up there. But I was like, I feel like green used to go a lot farther north.
Mm-hmm. See, yeah, I think that's their heart. That's their heart. And I think, okay, this is my idea, right? So this is how I think that the others came to be, right? So I think there is a place called the Heart of Winter, and I think there's something that lives there. You know, I don't know what it is, but it's a being that possesses this power, this ice magic or whatever. You know, it's kind of like R'hllor. Maybe it's the Great Other, maybe it's not. I don't think it's a god. Because I have this idea about cosmic entities that inhabit the world. I think it's one of those because George R. R. Martin does a lot of Lovecraft stuff, but that doesn't matter right now. I think there's something there. The Children of the Forest, they watched mankind throughout the Age of Heroes. They saw, mankind prospering, and while they're like confined to the deep woods, some of them got pissed off. They got really pissed off at man. They got jealous. They're like, this should be ours. They go north, far, far north, far as possible to the land of always winter. They beseech this being for its power, and he gives them the power. He gives them the power, and he turns them, like physically, that group of children of the forest, he turns them into the others. They're stronger, they're faster, but the problem, the curse is that everywhere they go, darkness and cold follows them, so they can't really go back to being the children of the forest. They're cursed children of the forest, but they have that power. And then they all on top of that they can awaken the dead, so they don't need the numbers. He gives them the power to awaken the dead so they can use the people that they kill against him to fight for them, because the children of the forest, their numbers were always small. That's one thing that the book say as well. Their numbers were always small, and then the others as well have small numbers. That's why they need the army of the dead. So he gives them this power. It gets crazy and out of hand. They're totally corrupted by it, And so that's why at the end you have the other children of the forest. They see what's happened, and that's why they know how to stop it. That's why the children of the forest that didn't become the others, they team up with men. They go to the others, and they're just like, why don't you guys take this area, and we can stay down here. And that's what I think happened, for the most part. If that makes any sense.
That does make sense. The only issue that I really have with the children in that scenario is the children appear to be nocturnal anyways.
Mm-hmm.
So they have those gold slitted eyes. Like, that is like a hallmark characteristic of a nocturnal animal.
Mm-hmm.
And they live underground.
Yeah.
Creepy caverns.
Yeah, it's very creepy.
The children kind of freak me out. I don't like Leaf. Leaf says a couple of things that are really creepy to Bran.
She seems extremely resentful towards mankind, is one thing that I've noticed. Like when he asked her, where are the other children? And she says they're gone. All this land that you used to call Westeros, it belonged to us. But then mankind got here and they killed off the lions and the unicorns and killed off most of the giants. And soon the direwolves will be dead, and this is our long dying. Because in the world that men have made, there's no more room for us or anything else. So like she's to me, she seems very resentful. She's like, fuck you. You ruined everything. I do see that. And then on top of that, they're just fucking creepy.
They are so creepy, and I feel like they're lying to him.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they talk about like there's only one Greenseer, but then like when Bran's in Hodor wandering around, you see like 4 children of the forest who are sitting in weirwood thrones.
Thanks for the super chat shot. Modern Westerosi politics needs the wall corrupt. I don't know what you mean, but thanks for the super chat. But yeah, those children though, they're I think they killed Jojen first of all. I'm pretty sure they fed Jojen to Bran. That chapter foreshadows it like a motherfucker. Like he keeps talking about. He says this 5 or 6 times that the moon was as sharp and thin as the crescent of a blade. And then right at the end of that, you have all this blood imagery. And then right at the end of the chapter, you see Bran's having a vision, and he sees a man being sacrificed with a curved knife, a curved blade, just like the moon, a sickle, sacrificed.
Yep.
And Bran can taste the blood. He can taste the blood because it drains, the blood goes into the werewood tree, and he can taste it. So yeah, it's totally hitting that there was some kind of sacrifice that happened there. And no, they're not telling Bran everything. Bloodraven straight up lies to Bran. He tells them that Ned didn't hear him. But Ned definitely heard him. Ned heard him when he called out. He says no, he heard the wind, he heard the leaves. But Ned heard him. And I think that what he saw at the end of that chapter, what Bran saw when he called out to him and Ned didn't hear him the second time, that's because he was only seeing what Bloodraven wanted him to see. If you look at that chapter, Bran does not remember going to sleep. He does not remember going to sleep. He's sitting there, he's waiting on Mira and Jojen to show up, and all of a sudden he's dreaming. All of a sudden he's dreaming, and he sees his dad again. It's almost like Bloodraven set this up to make it to... He set it up so that Bran would not believe that he could affect the past. He set that up. And yeah, it's really...
I almost feel like Bloodraven tried to do that before, and it went really terribly for him.
So that's why he's like, stop.
He's like, don't try doing that, man. He's like, I tried to warn Egg. He goes, and then yeah, he got crazy. He goes like, and then it was getting closer, and I tried to warn Aerys, and Aerys went nuts.
Mm-hmm.
Because I kind of find it remarkable that the phrase that he constantly repeated was "burn them all,"
mm-hmm.
and I feel like that was Bloodraven kind of trying to tell Aerys
about the White Walkers.
That's how you kill these things, the whites. He's like, burn them all. It's like, that's how you kill them. And I feel like he got like, he heard the voice in his head say that to him, and then he went like nuts.
Yeah.
And then he's like, Bran, please don't do that. He's
yeah.
like, that's a really bad idea. I thought that I could handle it, and if I couldn't get it done, there's no way that you're gonna.
I think Bran is more powerful than the Three-Eyed Crow, though.
I think that he seems possibly to have more power than him.
Mm-hmm. Well, we get and I also don't reject the possibility that the Three-Eyed Crow is actually possessed by the last Green Seer of the Children of the Forest, because the children, like I said, the Children of the Forest seem to have like this crazy resentment for mankind, and they've never had numbers. And I feel like there was a time where they were down to one Green Seer, one final Green Seer, and he saw Bloodraven. He saw Bloodraven's power. He led Bloodraven to that cave. They trapped him there. They possessed him, and that's what they intend to do with Bran. That's one of my theories.
They definitely seem to have killed him. Because I mean, he doesn't have skin covering half of his body, and he's not bleeding. Yeah. So there's no blood flowing through his veins at all anymore. Yeah. You ever notice that the kindly man is wearing Bloodraven's face when Arya meets him? Right down to the white worm-like thing coming out of his eye.
Oh my god, I never noticed that. That is like awesome.
There's incredible parallels between that creepy cave that Bloodraven's in and the House of Black and White. There's like the skulls lining the walls. They're kind of like almost like weird faces.
And we can't forget that, the black and white door at the wall too. At wait, was that a black and white door? At the Night Fort where Sam goes through, or was it?
Oh, that's the Black Gate or whatever. That's just like I can't actually tell. I've read the passage times trying to figure it out. It is a weirwood with a face on it, or it's a huge door made of. I can't figure out what it is, but it's enormous and it's made of weirwood.
And it was weird for me. I'm like, because it says like the mouth of it opens, right? So it's like, is it like magically opening, or is it like some kind of contraption that opens like in some like weird, crazy way?
And it seemed to be very similar to the way that Arya spoke the right words to the House of Black and White door, and it opened.
Mm-hmm. I got another super chat from Teresa Wheeler. She says, "I'm here. I love both of your channels, but I'm not feeling well. I'm watching, not chatting." Well, thank you, Teresa. That's very kind of you.
Thank you, Teresa.
Yeah.
All right, guys. I've been hanging out with everybody in the comment section here, and they would like us to answer some questions.
Yes, so I was just...
Sorry, we were having fun.
So, I kind of zoned out. I was talking to them. But, so one of the questions that a couple of people had was, do you mind if I'm doing this?
No, it's fine. I was just about to say.
No, it was very interesting. Everyone enjoyed it. Yeah, so one of the questions was... that I liked. Why is Jon Snow being named Aegon in the show? Why did they name him Aegon? What are your thoughts?
Look, okay. So I've heard some theories. and I don't agree with some of them. I'm gonna explain why. One theory that I heard was that in the House of the Undying, that Daenerys sees Jon Snow's birth, and Rhaegar calls the baby Aegon, but then I'm like, that's impossible because Rhaegar was dead by the time that Jon Snow was born. And then another idea that I think could be true is that Aegon is just a really recognizable Targaryen name, so they just said Aegon. That's what they gave Jon. And then another idea that I heard was that they combined, Fagon or Aegon, whatever you believe, from the books with Jon Snow in the show, and that's why his name's Aegon, because he's really combined with that other character from the books that's not in the show.
We keep hoping that Aegon was going to show up with the Golden Company.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, we were thinking that maybe even that could be the plot twist, or just something for Cersei to be dealing with in the South, because we couldn't figure out,
like, if they got there and then
what
betrayed
Cersei's
her.
going to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like she doesn't have anyone to fight with.
Yeah, we talked about this before we started, but yeah, she's like, I'm gonna go conquer everyone else in the South, and I'm like, who are you gonna go fight? Like, I mean, I don't know. There's no one left.
Yeah, because our theory is that young Griff is actually the baby that was Power of Joy, who's known in the books as Aegon.
Mm-hmm.
And so is that like a subtle way that, D&D are paying homage to something that's not revealed in the books yet?
Perhaps.
It could be something like that. And it being a recognizable Targaryen name, I can see that point too. But Aemon would have worked.
Yeah.
For that reason.
And, and people have said that maybe it was, my thing is, why would Rhaegar name both of his sons Aegon as well? And
exactly.
My thing is, there's no way that that Rhaegar didn't tell Lyanna what he wanted the baby to be named. There's no way that she just came up with the name herself. I don't think that. I think Aegon definitely had the name in mind, and he said, "This is the name. Whether it's a boy or a girl, you're gonna give it this name." That was just it. I don't think Lyanna just can't. Because why would Lyanna just name him the same name? She knows about baby Aegon. Why is she being a cunt? Trying to take other Aegon's thunder.
I know. Yeah. Sometimes I wonder about Lyanna, but I think maybe, in the books we've said to people, maybe he's not Aegon. They sold the whole thing to John Connington based on the notion that it was the baby born to Elia, because that's something John Connington's going to believe.
Mm-hmm.
You can't, he's a very rigid guy. It'd be hard to prove to him like, oh, this is Lyanna Stark's baby. So, maybe he's going by Aegon in the books because that's the story they sold to John Conn about that. Mm-hmm. I just don't get why they had to give him any name, really.
Just
Jon.
Keep it Jon.
That's Jon Snow. I'm not going to call him Aegon Targaryen.
No.
I can't even picture. He just doesn't look like.
No.
When I say that, it just seems like wrong.
It seems he will always be Jon Snow to me. Jon Snow named for Jon Arryn, and that's just it. That's
right.
Because
I
Aegon Targaryen. When I say Aegon Targaryen, that's somebody else for me. That's somebody else. Aegon Targaryen is Aegon the Conqueror.
Exactly.
I don't care what you want.
And of the Dany and Jon thing, Dany's more that type.
Mm-hmm.
She's a conqueror.
Dany
doesn't like the ruling thing. She gets bored with it.
Dany is, Aegon in female form. That's what I said when I saw the Field of Fire. She's Aegon in female form. That's what she is. She's the
exactly.
conqueror.
And they even depicted it like that. That's true. That is kind of like a reenactment of that from history.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I just didn't understand why they did that either.
Yeah, that was one thing that really confused me. And I did read a leak that said that his name was going to be Aegon. And when I read it, I was like, how is that possible? That doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense. And then it happened, and I was just like,
yeah,
crap.
I read all those leaks too, and they were all pretty accurate.
For the most part. There was one thing that I did, that I went and looked at them again after the entire season aired, because I had forgotten most of it. And one thing said that, Cersei was gonna miscarry.
Yep.
That didn't happen. So they weren't completely accurate at all. But
that was one thing they eliminated. And some are saying Tyrion promised Cersei that her child would be the heir since Daenerys is barren.
Mm-hmm.
There was some sort of deal cut there between the two of them. So
Why would
I don't know what
Tyrion
happened
make
there.
that promise? He knows.
He's acting so weird, I think.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I agree. You know that. God, that scene. Like, see the Tyrion and Cersei scene. Although I liked it for the most part, I felt like some of the
No, I did
dialogue.
too. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like for me, that scene made the Jaime and Cersei scene have so much less impact because I'm just like, if Cersei won't even kill Tyrion, one person that she hates the most in the entire world, she's not gonna kill Jaime. She's not gonna kill
Exactly.
Jaime. Like like for me, I'm just like, if she kills Jaime, that makes no sense. So I just knew that they weren't gonna do that. Um, but yeah, Tyrion's been weird this whole season though. He's been very weird. And then the look, people ask me about the look that he gives
I know.
Jon Snow because I thought I saw that and I'm like, is he in love with Daenerys or something? But then apparently I read that what's going on is that he's anxious about what about Dany and Jon for some reason. He's anxious about he doesn't think that it'll end well. And I'm wondering, it seems kind of perfect. King of the North, Queen, and then you think I don't know.
And he knew that was gonna happen.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't voice any, if he's supposed to be her counselor, he should have said that to her. See, this is what I'm talking about. I would remove him as my hand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
He
mean,
just
he's been
can't.
useless.
He's just not doing it. He just can't do it. I wouldn't say you're not on my side anymore, but you got to go.
He's been useless. He was much better in King's Landing. Okay, I got.
And what's up with Varys? Sorry,
Who?
Varys.
Who? I like
Oh,
God, Varys is nobody now. Like he used to be
just
so
there.
cool. He used to be so fucking cool. Like
He didn't
Varys.
provide a single piece of information.
No, Varys used to be my dude, man. Every time Varys said some shit, I was just like, oh yeah. Like when he gives Tyrion, even in the show, when he gives Tyrion that power resides where men believe it resides. I got chills with that line.
yeah.
And now he's
just delivering Raven scrolls.
my queen.
He's Maester Varys.
Yeah, exactly. It's really upsetting. It's really upsetting. I got 2 super chats though.
Go ahead.
Shot says faceless men kill the mages tending the 14 fires. Faceless men kill the mages tending the 14 fires. What are you Shot? You gave me another question. I didn't understand what you were saying before. What are you trying to say?
Oh,
here?
the faceless men. Yeah. So, in our faceless men video, we talked about the kindly man tells Arya that they gave the first gift to the slaves because they were seeking death, the mercy of death instead of tending the fires in the mines. And then later she says, why did you kill the slaves and not the slavers? And he said, they do. How does he say it?
He said that he gave them the gift as well, as in the very first faceless man seems to have caused the doom of Valyria.
Okay. Well, I mean, I get so that this idea is what he was saying is that like I guess is that there were mages in the 14 fires that were like keeping it going and keeping it steady from erupting. Just know they were mining the crap out of that 14 fires, and they could have just hit like the wrong thing, and then it would have just like gone up. That was like a terrible place to be for a slave. It's like the worst place ever. It's like smoky and it's hot. And so what this person is saying is that, there were mages there that were maintaining it and keeping it from like going haywire. And so this faceless man went down there and he killed them, and that's what caused the doom of Valyria.
Yeah, like in the I have it right here. He said he would bring the gift to them as well, but that is a tale for another day. One best shared with no one. That's what the kindly man said. And then there was an author's annotation on that statement that said there are a number of theories as to why the doom happened. From a natural cataclysm to the punishment of the gods to a magical catastrophe caused by turmoil among the free cities. And then it says, but here the kindly man hints at yet another explanation.
So
like when George leaves those annotations, we take them as clues.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
What are you trying to say there?
Yeah.
You trying to tell me they caused the doom?
Yeah, that kind of seems like it. It kind of seems like it's hidden on something like that. That's very fascinating.
We kind of have more than somewhat entertained the idea. We actually made a video that the Hammer of the Waters if performed on a volcanic peninsula, would cause exactly what they described the doom as being.
Mm. So let me get this super chat real quick before it goes away. It says White Walkers were created to. It's from Just a Face.
Okay.
It says White Walkers were created to prevent men from attacking the children of the forest, to keep peace. The reason White Walkers went rogue was that they think uniting both groups would cause peace. Children of the forest plus men built the wall together. Let me read that again.
Let me look at that.
White Walkers were created to prevent men from attacking the children of the forest, to keep peace. I'm trying to figure out what
The way
you're trying
George
to say.
R. R. Martin describes, like, on his website, when you're like getting the summaries on his official page, he said that he described the others as a sinister supernatural force.
Mm-hmm.
So, and he's also described the children as almost extraterrestrial in a way. So, yeah, I guess
that's interesting.
They could be connected somehow.
You know, George R. R. Martin, the Children of the Forest are almost certainly based off of the Irish legends of the Sidhe. And the fact that George R. R. Martin describes the others themselves as frozen Sidhe, you know, that makes me think that alone makes me think that they're connected, that they're related. He used that specific word. So they're like other sides of the same coin, if that makes any sense. Like if you look at the language and the way they talk, Children of the Forest, they have a language that sounds like running streams and, you know, like the sounds of nature. And if you look at the others, the way they talk, it's the same stuff, but it's frozen.
Yeah, it's like the frozen version of their language.
That's really true.
Exactly. So that's I feel like that's a major hint at, you know, their origins and what they really are.
The White Walkers seem to be able to telepathically communicate with one another as well.
Yes. Definitely. That's why I don't know for certain if that the Night King is going to be an actual thing in the books.
I don't think that
I don't
think that it exists.
Mm-hmm. Because
or if there is like a Night King, it's going to be more on the lines of what you were talking about, where there's some force or whatever you want to call it, godlike thing way up north.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, but we're never going to see him.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like for a visual medium, it makes it easier for everyone to understand.
You personify the enemy.
Yeah, I totally get why they would make a decision like this.
Me
I totally
too.
get it. I just want to say
that makes sense to me.
That I have over 1,000 people watching right now. So if you're watching and you've been enjoying the conversation, make sure you check out Order of the Greenhand's channel, and also leave a like if you are so inclined, because that really helps out. Yeah, but
I'll get on them in the comments section.
Yeah.
I'm with all of them in here. It's great.
Yeah.
I love it.
About this Night's King character, like, I feel like George R. R. Martin, his response to it alone, you know, says a lot. You know, as soon as this character shows up in season 4, I think, he goes to his blog and he says, the Night King in my book is something different. This is the Night's King. It's a legendary figure, and he says he hasn't survived to the present day. He straight up says it, like, this is not something. So what I think, they took this name from the book, a name that sounds cool, you know, and they put it in a character on the show. And we notice that he's not the Night's King. He's not the Night's King. He's the Night King. And they have always made an effort to make that distinction, the Night King. So,
yeah, the Night's King is always one of those things from way back in the day that you get the information about it and you can't really make any damn sense out of it.
Yeah, in the book, there's no indication whatsoever that the Night's King was the leader of the White Walkers. Like the Night's King in the book was was on the wall. So that
he was
means,
I want to say he was like the 13th.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was the 13th Lord Commander. Like, so this is after like the Long Night had already happened. So like he wouldn't have been there the first time. So and he was immortal. He was a mortal man. And then also this is just a legend. That's like what we were talking about before. Like, this is a legend that from thousands of years ago. We have no idea like what's true and what's not true. Like, this could have been much more similar and much less fantastical. This could be a story about a guy that fell in love with a wildling beyond the wall, and she had really strange customs, and people got pissed off about it because he declared himself king. You know, like, and you know, and do we think that the rat cook from the book is an actual thing too? I mean, legends are sometimes just legends, and I feel like this name, them putting this name in the show, has given people a lot more ideas about him showing up in the book. But I don't think so. I really
Yeah.
don't.
I have a theory that the free folk, or the first men that were beyond the wall, that over time they became called the wildlings, but they weren't the initial group of things or people or beings that were wildlings.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's a name that over the years, because they're just the ones that, 8,000 years later they fight, they are the wildlings now.
Mm.
Into modern men's eyes, but initially maybe like the children or whoever they're working with were the initial quote wildlings.
So
It's just,
do you think there are other races of beings that have died out, like the unicorns? Maybe Grumpkins and Snarks were like an actual thing. I want to know what are
Yeah, who
Grumpkins and
knows?
Snarks. I've never like what is that a thing outside?
I've
of
actually
Game of
never
Thrones?
even looked it up
Me
either.
either. Like I'm just
I
like
don't
Grumpkins and
know.
Snarks. Like maybe those were an actual thing too. They were like another race of beings.
I mean,
that
I do
existed.
think that there is magic though. So like, 8,000 years later, if someone's talking about Daenerys' story, she will have done all of those things, and they might seem fantastical, but and some of it might be exaggerated,
Yeah.
but some of it will be true too.
Yeah.
And a lot of times people say, it's not magic, it's tech. And I'm like, how is a dragon tech?
Yeah. Like
Melisandre, and I said this, and Dave and I say, Melisandre gave birth to a shadow baby.
And it killed someone.
it's magic.
I was like,
Exactly.
that is magic.
Like,
Not
that's the part of
Give me
enjoying
a
this.
scientific explanation as to how that happened.
Yeah, the thing about Daenerys too is that I always like to say that, she is like the personification of a myth in this story. Like she's like the princess off in the east that, people like they think she's dead. She's got dragons, she's doing all these crazy things, she's like conquering all these people. And I go back to the beginning of A Feast for Crows where you have them all like discussing her, and they're saying, oh, she couldn't possibly, they've all got different stories of what she's done, and they're thinking it couldn't all possibly be true, but it all is. Everything they say about her is
Exactly.
true. So yeah, that's
Dragons in Karth, dragons,
Yeah.
Dothraki dragons,
Yes.
dragons freeing slaves.
Yeah, I mean she's very much like a living myth, a living legend. Even in the East, like the slaves, they view her as like Misa. We go to her and she will save us all. She's the one that's gonna liberate all these people and do all these fantastic things. These people come to the gates of her city, and then it keeps growing, it keeps building. She's almost like worshipped by these people. Like she goes out here and she lays hands on these sick and dying people like Jesus, and she like washes them. Like no other character would have done that. I can't think of a single other character that would have done that. So that's why when people are like Daenerys is like this evil mad character,
No.
I'm just like no. Like
No, she just has flaws, and she's trying to learn.
And
Nobody's
she's
ever
15.
taught her anything.
Yeah.
She's just trying to do the right thing.
That's another thing though. Daenerys does not have a formal education at all.
Not at all.
Like
Viserys. Okay?
Viserys is the closest thing that she ever had.
I do feel for Viserys, but he was deranged.
yeah.
And she was running for her life. So, George George sees a hero or somebody who fights the good fight and has good intentions, and that's Daenerys.
Mm-hmm.
She's not perfect. We do have to deal with her, thinking about how Dario is and real. Like,
I mean, she's a teenage
She's 15.
girl.
She's 15 years old.
Exactly.
She's
Yeah.
doing pretty good.
I think
So-
she's doing very good. Look at what she's done. She conquered like all these cities in a matter of like months. Like, come on, Jesus Christ. She's done so
Yeah.
much. Like, no one expected her to survive this long. Like, I'm pretty sure that Illyrio sent her and Viserys out into the Dothraki Sea to die, to get rid
Yeah,
of
I
him.
definitely think that he wanted Viserys.
I think he wanted
Gone.
Viserys gone. Definitely.
I don't know about Dany, but
Well, why not both? Like, does it
I don't
really
know,
matter?
because I think he knew that it would only be a matter of time before Viserys's mouth did him in
Yeah.
with the Dothraki.
Mm-hmm.
And with Dany, I don't know. I just think that he had a lot invested in that, and he continues to have a lot invested in that.
Well, after he finds out that she has the dragons,
Yeah, but
definitely
he also
wants her to
gave
come
her
back.
the eggs
He did. But like, we could talk about how like the fact that they're priceless and stuff like that. But like, we don't really know like the exact worth. I know Jorah says something like, "You could be rich for the rest of your lives with these eggs." So he does. He spends a lot of money on these eggs. Presumably.
You know what's interesting? She starts having dragon dreams when they're staying at Khal Drogo's manse before the wedding.
Yeah.
So like I've wondered, like she didn't have them before. And we like theorized it was the proximity to the eggs that prompted the dreaming about dragons and the intense dreams she was having about like, the precursors to like her getting like, bathed in the fires. And were they at Khal Drogo's? And then it was just like, a trick, like these are Illyrio's gift to you. But Khal Drogo seems to me to be something way more than just a call, too.
Yeah.
He has friends from every corner of the world.
Yeah.
And he owns a mansion, which is really not a Dothraki thing.
That's one thing that I always think about. Like in the freaking books, Khal Drogo has a freaking house. Like that's just so not a thing in the show.
Like a huge palace in freaking Pentos that he just owns, and it has like gold all over it. He's like the richest guy ever. I forget. He has friends from like every country in the entire world. All at his house.
And when they were meeting in the beginning, and and there's a mosaic of the doom of Illyria, almost like this group of guys from around the world are there to remember. Like remember what happened that day. Yeah. Remember, kind of like a secret society almost.
And he wants this weird bride, this Targaryen bride. That's also extremely odd.
And Viserys says, he goes, he is Aegon the Conqueror. No, Aegon the Dragon Lord reborn, and you will be his queen. I was like, why do you call him the Dragon Lord? Why not just the Conqueror?
Yeah, there's
Dothraki conquerors, but he made that distinction.
I forget who's. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just saying that was. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
I've just had this like feeling that he is like he played a more significant role than everyone just thinks that he did. Everyone just kind of thinks that he was like the barbarian warlord. And I was like, this guy seemed to have like a very elaborate plan for what he wanted to get done. Yeah. He had already united like 99% of the Dothraki under himself. And he was trying to create the stallion that mounts the world.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. Like I don't remember where I heard that, but yeah, I heard the theory that Drogo had all this set up. He married Daenerys specifically. This was all him trying to fulfill a prophecy. Like this is what the whole thing was. He was trying to fulfill a prophecy, and he was using Daenerys to do so. But True Blue left me a super chat, and he says, "Who did?"
And also, if you can make Bran the Builder a moderator.
Bran the Builder.
Okay. He'll take care of because there's like a lot going on in here. I'm trying to do it.
Okay. Yeah. I don't pay enough attention to the chat. I'm sorry, guys.
I know. No, you guys are doing it. I like reading. It's fun.
Well, True Blue says, who did George R. R. Martin base Dany's character on in real life? I don't know if she's necessarily based on any one particular character from history. So I really can't answer that. I think she's our own thing.
I think that she's an independent thing. I mean, obviously there's like some aspects of Valyrians that you kind of feel might have been borrowed from Tolkien and the elves.
Well, George R. Martin borrows a lot of stuff from a lot of different places, and everybody does.
He does. He really takes a lot of he puts a lot of different things and he puts it together in his own twist. Like he does a lot of research, I think.
I've always said I've read so much fantasy. I've read like Brandon Sanderson and like Robert Jordan, and then I've like read all the Malazan Book of the Fallen books, and all of that stuff. And A Song of Ice and Fire is the best fantasy book series that I've ever read. Like, I'm sorry, Tolkien fans. It's better than The Lord of the Rings. I'm so sorry, but it just is. Like,
you know why too? He's just an excellent writer. Like, when I'm reading it, I'm like, that is just a real conversation, and the way he words it, it's just perfect every time, and it's authentic. Like, because you're in so many different people's heads, but he really tries to be the little kid. And he's not a little kid.
No.
How hard is that probably for him?
Or thing. He's
He's not a
becoming these
15-year-old.
people.
Exactly. It's kind of, yeah, that's crazy.
It's so weird.
Trying to write an 8 or a 7-year-old little newly crippled boy's thoughts.
Yeah.
Or a
Yeah, I couldn't do
15-year-old
that.
girl's crush on the bad boy with the gold tooth.
See, that's what's so weird, because like all of these people are George, literally all of them. This all came out of this one person's mind, and like I feel people don't even understand or get the magnitude of how like incredible that is. Like these characters are so real and so well realized. One person.
So real.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's not a real person. I have to say that to myself sometimes.
Yeah.
One thing I just saw online, just to answer that super chat for us, a couple of people have thought that Dany was maybe some inspiration came from Queen Elizabeth I.
Okay.
I never thought of that, but I just kind of looked it up out of curiosity.
You know, it's
Wasn't
funny.
she a virgin?
She was the Virgin Queen. I actually just watched Kate Blanchett in Elizabeth, where she there's two movies. There's Elizabeth and Elizabeth the Golden Age. And I don't really think that she's. I mean, I don't know how historically accurate those movies are, so don't quote me. But I don't really see Daenerys in her very much. I really don't.
No.
But I mean,
Yeah, that was just what someone said. I think that
That's interesting because last week I feel like people were trying to tell me that Sansa was Queen Elizabeth.
no,
Ugh.
I definitely don't see it there.
No.
Like
Sansa's too much like her mother.
One thing that we had talked live Q&A the other night, Quinn, and maybe you have some thoughts. When Bran is, I think it's Bran too, he's thinking about all the people he's going to miss because he's going to be going to King's Landing with his father. And he's like, oh, I'm going to miss Gage the cook. I'm going to miss old Nan. I'm going to miss blah, blah, Harlan, the, kennel master. And the man in the glass gardens, ... who gave him a blackberry, one blackberry every day.
Like, who is that guy?
Who is that?
That is creepy.
It's creepy. And whenever George dots me, I'm like, what does that mean?
What you talking about, George? What's going on here?
I was like,
and why did he give him one blackberry every day? And no one ever talks about that man again.
and he's like the only character that doesn't get a name.
Right. He gives us names for people I don't care. Like, I'm like, why are you telling me that guy's name?
Yeah, the guy that they passed on the street gets a first name, and the guy doesn't get a first name.
George R. Martin has said that he can't write a character unless he knows the name.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But this guy is a ...
But this guy doesn't have one.
Who gave him one blackberry every single day.
Very, very strange. That's very strange. I'm gonna have to go and look at that and see what
look at that, please,
see if I can pull
because
anything
I'm
from
on
that.
the hunt. I have people looking up stuff too because I was like, help me. Once a week, I think about that man with blackberries.
Who is this guy?
Who is this man? He's the only person in the entire story that doesn't have a name.
Yeah.
So George Harris super chatted me and he said, if Rhaegar put Elia to the side and married Lyanna, then why would that make his son by Elia? Then wouldn't that make his son by Elia a bastard and no longer his heir? He named Jon Aegon because he wanted his heir to be named Aegon. This is what started the freaking Blackfire Rebellion. Shit like this. Like, I mean, see, that's the thing. It's confusing. It's questionable. I think since he was married to Elia at the time, then technically the original Aegon is not a bastard. He's still the heir. I think he's still like that marriage was. It was real when when
The
he
moment
had
it was
him.
consummated.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then like right after they did the Rhaegar thing, Rhaegar annulled and then got married to Lyanna, they on Westeros, on the wiki associated with Westeros.org, there was a post about how annulments can only be done if the marriage hasn't been consummated.
Mm-hmm.
Rhaegar had 2 children with Elia Martell.
Yeah, exactly.
So therefore, you can't annul that marriage and bastardize those children. That would be like commonplace. That would happen more often, and that would cause serious problems because this is inheritance. It's just I don't know.
You're talking about the throne here.
Yeah.
Like I mean, the Rhaegar. Like, you think Dorne? If things hadn't gone down the way they did, and Rhaegar survived, and Rhaegar brought Jon or Aegon up, Lyanna's baby up, and he's like, no, this is my heir now. You think Dorne would just be okay with this?
No.
And then
No.
Dorne's just gonna be like, oh, fine. No,
Oberyn Martell would have killed him.
it's gonna start an entire another war. Like there's another. You finished the rebellion, good. Here's another war with the Dornish now. I
I always thought it was very telling that Oberyn didn't show up. Too. Like they were clearly not happy. So many people have tried to say that the Dornish don't care about paramours and other girls, and I was like, well,
yeah, but this is totally different.
I was like, what they're talking about here is totally different. And I was like, even if it was just she was the side girl, I was like, Oberyn Martell didn't show up. I was like, they had to have the Kingsguard, Lewin Martell, lead the Dornish forces into battle. Oberyn, the Red Viper, did not show up.
Yeah.
And George said that they might not have been stalwart in their support for Rhaegar's cause. They went through the motions, but there's, hurt feelings there. And so maybe they weren't as there for him as an army.
I mean, of course
let's be honest. When you go into battle, you're going to try to win, because if you don't win, you die.
But George made a point of answering the question like that. So when he answers a question like that,
but he's talking about the Dornish support. They probably didn't send as many guys as
something like that. Yeah, they didn't send. Okay.
Like Oberyn didn't come.
Right.
I was like, guys who were there were definitely going to fight, because
they sent guys, but
the other option's dying.
Their support wasn't really there.
Yeah, I'm just wondering about this. That's why I wonder about the name Aegon in the book. Like that just makes me think that it's just that name. I'm just like, what's going on? Like if that was really the name, then what the heck was Rhaegar doing? What are you trying to start here? At least give him a different name. Like I get
that's
that.
So weird.
I get that Ilya was sick.
George Foreman.
So Ilya was like sick, right? She couldn't really have any more kids. Like it would have probably killed her if she had any more kids. So
yeah, Aegon, the first Aegon being born right after Harrenhal almost killed her.
Mm-hmm. So yeah. So I get why Rhaegar wants to do this crazy prophecy. He feels like he has to have 3 kids or whatever.
And is polygamy outlawed?
I mean, they do say that the Targaryens kind of got away with shit. That other people.
So like maybe both of those marriages are
real,
legit.
Yeah.
In the books anyway, it won't be this annulment thing.
No, that's not happening.
Yeah.
And I know, I'm not trying to hate on the show plot. I'm just trying to point that out. Like, it's just, it won't be that way, but it is possible that the polygamy, there's just 2 there could be.
What I don't understand is what's the point of the polygamy nonsense anyways, or the annulment anyways, when the other 2 kids are dead.
Right.
You don't even need the annulment to make Jon the heir.
Right.
If there's a marriage.
Yeah, exactly.
So why did they...
so inventing the stupid annulment that's just like, oh, we'll create one line of dialogue that totally alleviates this issue. It's like, you didn't even need to do that. It just kind of made it silly. You're like, wait a second. So now he just has, his other 2 kids are bastards. Like, Elia is being forcibly removed from Dragonstone and sent home. Like what's going on here? That doesn't make any sense.
Like, yeah, I do think Rhaegar. People really romanticize the Rhaegar and Lyanna thing. But what I do see here is I agree with what that person said to me. I see Rhaegar as being someone that was very manipulative, and he manipulated Lyanna Stark into falling in love with him, and he used her for what he needed to do, to complete whatever prophecy he was trying to complete.
Yep.
That's what I see would happen. Warden of the Dawn left me a super chat, and he says, "What does the White Walker dragon breathe? Frozen fire?" Did we talk about this earlier? I'm pretty sure we did. But
we had a fairly.
Yeah. So what
I think I actually asked you, because I heard you say that, and I was like, that's intriguing, because I couldn't figure out what ice or how ice or fire could have done.
Yeah.
What it did.
So what I basically said was that I think it's just like that pure energy that's coming from, whatever dimension the energy comes from. That's why their eyes are blue, because they're full of, whatever this is. And, the dragon is full of that. And he can breathe it. It's a weapon.
Yes.
I'm sorry. I have to give License some credit here. He goes, Aegon is Finkel and Einhorn. and I appreciate you for saying that.
Yeah. Well.
Einhorn
it's
is
just,
a man.
It's whatever they wanted it to be. I don't know if we'll ever get an explanation, but I think it was just like some powerful
Yeah.
fire.
It's
And it
what?
took down the wall, and that's that.
Yeah, that's what happened. They don't need to explain any more than that. Someone has
I
asked this.
wonder what kills the white dragon now. Probably need what, like a dragon glass arrow or something?
I think that the other dragons could probably take it down. You know,
Yeah, true.
I think that's what's gonna happen. But I think that, see, this dragon, like I said, it's way faster. Now that the Night King is on it, he was whipping that dragon. So I'm just like it's gonna be hard. Like I look at that final scene, and I'm just like, what are they gonna do? That thing looks like it could like just kill Rhaegar. I'm pretty sure it is. I'm pretty sure
When I
Rhaegar.
saw him on that thing, what came into my head was that song "Riding Dirty." I don't know
Yeah.
why. I just was like, "What is this?" I like sunglasses on him, and
Dude, the scene, like, say what you want about Game of Thrones, but when they just don't, when there's no dialogue or plot that needs to happen, and it's just like pure budget, man, that scene was sick.
Yeah,
God,
no,
that
it
scene
was for
was,
sure.
In terms of a visual appeal.
yeah, it looked good. Like, holy, like, as soon as I saw it, I was like, okay, this is the moment. As soon as we get that shot of the wall, where it's like it goes over, I'm just like, yeah, yeah. And I was hoping for ice spiders, but sadly. So
It
I got a
was
couple questions that I should probably
okay.
answer. So this person has asked multiple times. Dang it, where did it go? Shit. It's
Oh, what's the name?
gone. I forgot what it was, but okay.
Chandler Walker.
No, it was someone that didn't super chat, but whatever, I'll find it. Chandler Walker says, "What role did the Ghost of High Heart play? Will the Ghost of High Heart play?" Well, I think like I said, I think that she's descended from the Children of the Forest, Leaf. And I think that she's just kind of that, person that's there to give those prophecies and stuff like that. I don't know if she'll have like a more significant role than that. You know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like when Bran's talking to Leaf and Leaf's telling him the story about how the children got overrun by men.
Mm-hmm.
He thinks that because he says they just sing sweet songs. Men would want to wage a bloody
Yeah.
vengeance. And then later, when Sansa's Marillion is singing all these songs and torturing them at the Vale,
Mm-hmm.
when he's singing about Jenny of Oldstones, he relates that part of the verse in the song to a bloody vengeance.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm like, what were they doing? What happened there? Like, is that the children's bloody vengeance?
Oh wow, that's interesting. Because there's wildfire. And, this all happened. See, what's weird? Wait, let me. Okay, I'll answer this. What's weird is that Bloodraven disappeared beyond the wall, and after he disappears, that's when Aegon the Fifth becomes obsessed with dragons. He
Yeah.
becomes upset. Like, it's after that. So like, why did Bloodraven go beyond the wall? I mean, he was reigning, but why did he disappear? Why did he stay with the children? You know,
Yep.
that's very interesting because I mean, because like it seems to me that Aegon was influenced in the same way that Daenerys was. Someone came to him in his dreams. They were trying to accomplish this thing. They were trying to birth these dragons into the world, and it failed with Aegon. And then probably the same thing happened with Aerys, failed with him, and then they
Mm-hmm.
succeeded with Daenerys. It was just the right set of circumstances with Daenerys, and it worked. So let me get
And
this
in
super
some ways,
chat.
you have to wonder, like, did he set that all up?
Yeah, yeah. So he says, "Hey guys, love you all. Brand has my question for you. Thanks for your channels and commitment." Cool,
Thank you.
cool.
So Bran the Builder has it.
Mm-hmm.
Is it the cosmic question?
I'm not sure.
Oh yeah, it's coming in two parts.
Mm-hmm.
Green seers, beings that can grow flora and fauna, like the Order of the Green Hand postulate. If the Night King came from one of these beings, like the Starks, maybe he's even a Stark, and he's a green seer, he would be able to see back and forward in time. Maybe he can see their fall and are just trying to prevent that or something else. What do you think?
That the Night King sees the fall of what?
I'm going to try to copy and paste it. Hang on one sec.
The Night King sees their fall. I heard an idea that, maybe the White Walkers just have a prophecy that the world is going to be destroyed through fire. And so they're marching to save the world from Daenerys Targaryen.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just kind of
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I
No.
think...
No.
No.
I heard that Aegon, the Targaryens turned their eyes to Westeros and their sights on Westeros because they foresaw the doom of man coming out of Westeros.
Mm-hmm.
So what is that doom of man? Is that the White Walkers? Is that the Long Night?
Maybe. George R. R. Martin does have that quote that I always like to bring up where he says, ice preserves and fire consumes.
And fire is always hungry. That's what Leaf tells him. And I was like, wow.
Yeah.
It's true.
So maybe ice is like the balancer. It's the equalizer. Ice is on the side of death. Death is really the great equalizer. Everything dies. So in the end, neither side matters because everything dies in the end. So the question that someone was trying to ask me is they were saying, how do we feel about the Jon Snow and Daenerys romance?
Oh.
Yeah. So the thing is, I feel like it could have been handled better in the show.
Yeah.
I don't know if I feel like it's gonna happen in the books probably. I see something like that maybe happening, but in the show it was just kind of
I think that
chemistry.
in real life, Emilia Clarke has a thing for Kit Harington because the way she looks at him, I'm like, she's in love with him. But in terms of the chemistry, I kind of enjoyed it a little bit. Just because I'd like something good to happen to Jon.
Mm-hmm.
And she's a good person, like you said, and so is Jon. Deep down, they make mistakes and stuff, but I didn't feel chemistry really there.
No. I mean, I don't know. There's something weird. I just felt like it just happened too quickly for me.
Yes.
Yeah.
There was no build up.
Well, I think what the problem is that it wasn't happening quickly. It just felt like it happened quickly because they kept skipping 3-week sections of time.
With the Drogo and Daenerys love thing, it feels like it develops over a long period of time. It feels like it's totally believable by the time.
When he gives her that speech after that guy tries to poison her.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, I'm gonna cross the salt sea or whatever. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Drogo, son of Barbo.
Yeah, I was like, wow, that was powerful.
So freaking epic. And then she gives kind of his same speech later on.
Yeah.
Last season
His was better.
Yeah, it's way less impactful. Even on top of the dragon, I'm just like, whatever.
Yeah, I know. I was like, do we really need this again?
I feel like they were trying to really drive home how she was truly from the burning of the Khals there and emerging from the fires. It was her baptism by fire, if you will, and she was a true dragon lord now, and she had control over dragons.
That scene, I remember that scene from last season. She walks away and she's like, hold on. And then she comes back with the dragon. I was just what?
My mom called me after. She's like, Billy. I was like, I don't think so. She's like, and then how many times do I have to hear Daenerys say I was born to rule the 7 kingdoms? Or Jon say I looked the Night King in the eye. I'm like, stop it. I used to have to pay attention when I watched. Now I can fold laundry, cook, and I know exactly what's going on.
Exactly. It's the amount of effort required is just not there anymore. Remy Martin.
You used to have to watch it 15
You used to have to
times.
watch it.
Yeah.
Watch it. You know?
I'll still watch it 2 or 3 times before I make one review, just so I make sure. But because I'm making reviews, I watch it once, I could be paying half attention and still get everything that happens. But I just don't want to make any mistakes. And have people jump down my throat, but fuck you got this wrong and that wrong.
Yeah. We do the same thing. We watch it a couple of times, and then I was like, wait, that doesn't make sense. How did Tyrion know that Jaime was even alive?
Yeah.
To go on this
he think that he died?
Yeah.
I think that's actually part of the problem when you do a review is that you have to watch it 4 times in a row, and then you notice everything that
didn't add up or whatever.
That didn't add up, whereas most people watch it once, and then maybe later in the week they'll watch it again.
Yeah.
Try watching it 3 times in a row and see if you don't notice that a whole bunch of stuff doesn't make.
Yeah, exactly. Remy Martin asked me, she super chatted me, or he, I don't know. Sorry if this has been asked and answered, but did Robert start the Lyanna kidnap and rape rumor because of his wounded pride? It
No.
was kind of just assumed because like Rhaegar ran away with Lyanna, and then the Mad King does what he did to Ned Stark's family, and so it's kind of just
Hmm.
like it was kind of a fuck the Targaryen situation. No one really knew what happened, but the Mad King was so crazy, and like his reaction to it was just like his reaction to Brandon approaching him was just so bad that it was just like fuck the Targaryens after that.
Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't handle that very
It was
well.
terrible. And
Yeah.
I don't think they foresaw like him doing that.
No.
But and then you're just like, now what do we do?
I just can't believe that
Just stay
this
here.
is like going back to what we were talking about earlier, like the degree of stupidity or selfishness it would have taken to know that the entire realm is bleeding while you're just like chilling in your tower having your little love story.
Yeah, like what? This is all your fault. These people are dying because of you.
It's
Right.
like tens of thousands of people died because you broke your marriage pact and ran off with
Yeah.
this dude.
And people just treat it as like, oh, it's so romantic. It's such a wonderful. But I'm like, what did Rhaegar think would happen when he stole
Yeah.
Robert Baratheon's bride and then and pissed off the Dornish at the same time? So yeah,
Yeah, no, I definitely think that, like I said, Ned, he cared about his sister and everything like that. But if you really read that, he thinks back on it and he feels a little resentment almost.
mm-hmm.
His whole family, besides Benjen,
Yeah.
was dead.
So we're gonna go
So-
for
Oh, and I just sent you that question, Quinn, just so you know, in Twitter.
Okay.
The one that we were trying to figure out before I sent the whole thing to you, so it's probably easier to read right there.
Okay, I'm gonna read it right now.
Okay.
It says, I believe you about your cosmic beings theory. Like if these beings came and had powers, they may have crossbred with the beings in Planetos, like the Children of the Forest did. Producing beings with powers like wargs, green seers, beings that can grow flora and fauna like the Order of the Green Hand postulate. If the Night King came from one of these beings like the Starks, maybe he's even a Stark, and he's a green seer. He would be able to see back and forward in time. Maybe he can see their fall and are just trying to prevent that or something else. What do you think? Sorry about it being so long. No, it's fine. The thing about those cosmic beings, I don't think that they interact directly with men. So I don't see them breeding. Okay? I think that there are powers that exist naturally in, Planetos in this world. There are certain things just about the nature of their reality, that creates things that creates this magical dimension, this magical element that just doesn't exist in our world. As far as the Night King being a green seer, from what they're doing in the show, it seems like he has to have some kind of prophetic ability. That's the only way that it even makes a little bit of sense. Because like if they did need the dragon to cross the wall, and it seems like they did, they gave us no other option about how they could have. He would have had to known that Daenerys was coming with a dragon. Like there's just no other thing. He would have had to known that. He would have he would have had to know in the future. It seems like he would have had to. So I don't know. But in the book, like I said, Night King probably not a thing.
All right. Well, in terms of from a book standpoint, we've kind of we have the idea that there's something obviously very strange and magical about Garth Greenhand. I don't know if you
Yes,
delve
I know
into
about
that.
him. I know about him.
Garth Greenhand was one of the first people that we noticed that are straight up referred to as a deity in the world of Ice and Fire. And one of the Gilbane ones, the ones that are written directly by George.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, he flat out called Garth Greenhand a god on Earth. And
Yes.
it got us connecting that towards like the Great Empire of the Dawn.
Mm-hmm.
And then we started noticing that all these legends from history that seem to be connected to the god figures of the history all over the world, these people all lived for an incredibly long period of time. And I was like, now there's always going to be some embellishment in legends. I was like, but it seemed like it couldn't be a coincidence that from the farthest corner of the world and right here in Westeros, there were legends of people who were allegedly descendants of gods that seemed to have ruled areas for an incredibly long period of time.
Yeah, and you have even Emperor of the Dawn. He had children supposedly. He did.
Yeah, and the first emperor was the God on Earth emperor,
Mm-hmm.
who was the son of the Lion of Night and the Maid of Light, I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
And he ruled for 10,000 years, and then his first son was the Pearl Emperor, and then went right through all the Gemstone Emperors.
Mm-hmm.
And we kind of feel like the first men are descendants, or at least, the very least, Garth himself was a descendant of one of the early emperors. And then he kind of went
Traveled to
off doing,
Westeros.
because his story as Garth, as the progenitor of Westeros, is shockingly similar to the God on Earth
Mm-hmm.
legend. I was like, it's very similar. His descendants living for exceptionally long periods of time, having mystical ability to do things. And the more we looked at it, the more we were convinced that there was something to it. Because, I mean, Garth's legend is like fairly incredible. It's like every woman he ever looks at immediately becomes fertile. He,
You should look at
he,
Daenerys.
yes, maybe her presence around Jon is what did it, because he's a descendant of his. I was
Oh,
like, and then we were looking at the Danes, which I think is what he's really talking about, because we kind of look at House Dane as something that's unique, and their legend of how they got here is unique, and then they have the most unique sword in the entire story,
yes.
and it almost appears like it's literally made of a star.
It has all the properties of Valyrian steel, but it's white.
And it's like, and it glows,
Yeah, yeah.
and it glows like that pure white color that like a star glows, and you're like, there's something really special about this. And then we noticed in Dany's vision, I want to say it's the one, her really weird dream that she has right before she decides to birth her dragons,
Mm-hmm. That vision.
and the part where she's walking, and it that's like a very transformative dream. Like at the
Mm-hmm.
beginning of it, she's a scared little girl and her
Yeah.
feet are making bloody footprints. By the time she's done, she's like on fire and she
Mm-hmm.
sprouts dragon wings and her feet are melting the stone. But there's a point where she's walking down a hallway, and all of the people who are standing in the hallway were all something, she says. And they had eye colors that perfectly match all of the gemstone embers.
Really?
And then on top of that, they all have white flaming swords.
Hmm.
And it made me feel like Dawn is kind of like a version of their white flaming swords, except he like solidified it somehow.
Mm-hmm.
I was I was like, it's so similar that it made us feel like his legend of the first Dane was like almost literal. Like he literally followed the star back down to Earth. Like he was like a god on Earth who came back down
Uh-huh.
as a, like maybe even one of the former emperors of the Dawn or something like that, and he came back down with his sword.
Wow. That's very interesting. So, like, okay. Yeah, I like
Sorry,
it.
I went off on a tangent there.
No, I like it though because I mean I totally get behind the idea of gods, and we say gods, but like I don't know if they're necessarily gods, but like entities.
More in like the mythological sense is
Yeah.
what I was saying. Like I was like, because we found basically, if you look up any type of mythology, there are aspects of this story that are from Egyptian mythology, or I was like R'hllor is based off of the sun god Ra from
Mm-hmm.
Egypt, and the Great Other is a Pep, the the eternal battle for light and dark or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, we've done so much reading on mythology that in like the last 3 months that I have
There's
trouble keeping it all straight sometimes. But
there's so much. I mean, like George R. R. Martin references like mythology, like other works of great literature. Like I'm super into like the Lovecraftian stuff that he comes up with and that he puts into his novels because there is a
like the
lot.
Kohoric and the Black Goat, and
The literally the same exact names, like Stagai or Kadath, like literally the exact same names.
Or
The
the
Church
Church
of
of
the Starry Wisdom, Jinx. Like literally the exact same stuff. So I love it all. So we're gonna take a few more questions before we actually end this. So
Sounds good.
in the chat, please final questions. We're gonna take 2 or 3 more, and then we'll be done here. So if you got anything else to say, now is the time to say it. Okay. Q&A. Do you think is the feature of Fagon? What do you think is the future of Aegon in the books? What will be his role in the endgame? I think he's gonna die. What do you guys think?
We think, I actually kind of see Dany and him being a very perfect ruling couple for the southern part of Westeros.
Uh-huh.
Aegon has a far better, we'll call
Education.
it, education, and actually he just has like the charisma. Period.
Yeah.
It was like he walked in there and made the Golden Company his in like a 45-second speech.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, and they were like his. Like, every one of those guys will literally die for him in a second at the end of his speech. I was like, Dany doesn't really have that same ability
She inspires, like masses of people, like the downtrodden, like really cling to Daenerys, like the Unsullied, and well, it's because she freed them. But I feel like she's more like an inspirational figure, I think.
Exactly, and she's more of. I feel like she's more of the conqueror type, just like even simple Dario said to her in the show. Like you're not really meant to just like sit there on the throne all day and listen to people's problems.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah,
was
I
like,
totally agree.
but Aegon would have the perfect demeanor for that, and he listens to counsel and learn. But because I kind of see the future of Westeros as being like the wheel, if you will, is going to end up being broken, but it's not going to get broken because like they came and stepped on it. It's going to be broken because all of these people just work together to survive the worst thing ever.
Yeah.
And they're just going to divvy it up and be like, listen, there's no reason for us to continue fighting with each other now that we just defeated them. Go back, take your kingdom. Jon rules the north. They rule down south. Everybody's happy.
I wouldn't be surprised if the entire feudal system completely falls after the long night.
Have you ever know? Oh, sorry.
No, you can go ahead and ask what you were going to ask.
Oh, it was just like an interesting idea that First Men seemed to, like, you know how they proclaimed Robb the King of the North, and then they just proclaimed Jon the King of the North.
Yeah.
And in the Iron Islands, and they choose their leader. The Night's Watch chooses their leader.
Yeah.
I was like, I feel like it could still be a form of feudalism, but it's going to be a form of feudalism by choice, as opposed to somebody who just, you know what I'm saying?
That's what I think that's what I think has to happen, because I don't think the Iron Throne is going to be a thing at the end. Like, because I've always said, when people ask me, whose side am I on, which great house, I always say I'm not on any of the great houses' side. I'm on the side of the common people, because those are the people that really have been suffering this entire time. Not the lords and the ladies. It's really been the common people that have been having their villages burned, and they're the ones that are going to starve when winter comes. So I think that it's up to them to stand up and fight for themselves, and they can't really depend on anyone else.
I will say that the Starks seem to have suffered a bit.
I mean, yeah, but like, are the Starks suffering more than the farmer that has to slowly starve to death, and his village gets burned? It's like Varys said, you High Lords play your Game of Thrones, and everyone else suffers underneath you.
I thought so much that speech was modeled off of his why Aegon should be on the throne speech that he gave right before he killed Kevin, that I thought that he was going to flip on Dany when the Golden Company came. I thought that was going to be like finally another political maneuver or twist that people didn't see coming.
Yeah.
Because he was like saying how like she's not very good, and then she like immediately threatened to burn him alive.
Yeah.
So maybe Varys is gonna jump ship here, and that was like his foreshadowing, because he changed it from Aegon to like himself, like he grew up among the common people instead of Aegon grew up common. I was like, that's the speech right there on why he said Aegon was the perfect ruler.
I believe Varys is for the people. I absolutely think that he's definitely for the people. I don't think he. That's what I think his whole thing is.
He serves the realm.
Yes. Okay, we've got to take one more question. Will Westeros have a parliament by the end of the story? No more absolute monarchy. Maybe an elective. We just answered that. We really just answered that. Well, I think it could be something like Dave said, like an elective monarchy where they choose the leader that rules them. But I don't think it's going to be like it is. I don't think it can continue to go on where we follow this person just because their father or their was the king before them. Like that has to stop. That needs to stop. The wheel needs to be broken. You know, you can't have that anymore. It needs to change. And I think in the ending, like George said, it's going to be bittersweet. You're going to get that sense of loss. Things will be lost. They will have suffered for what, you know.
A lot.
Yeah, for what, to save themselves, you know. They'll be broken,
I think that,
but they'll survive.
I feel like the beginning of the Winds of Winter is going to be a bloodbath. I feel like we're going to lose a lot of people that we like pretty quickly, because he has too many point of view characters. I was like combining 2 books of point of view characters into one. I was like, immediately you know that he has to do some house cleaning in order to not have 28 or 30 point of view characters.
Yeah. I just want to say before we go that I think it would have been perfect. It would have been the perfect fuck you scene to everyone if Cersei had just had the Mountain murder Jaime. Like that would have been like, people would have lost their shit. I would have lost my shit. But yeah, like I said, it was very fun talking to you guys, Dave and Mary Ellen, right? Mary Ellen.
Yes.
Yes.
It's Mary Ellen.
And True Blue asked one more question. It's a super chat, so I guess I'll take it. What is your craziest funny theory of how the show will end? They kill the White Walkers, Dany and Jon, you know, marry and have kids and so happy, and the dragons are flying around, and it's playing music, and it says they lived happily ever after.
Don't forget about the romantic midnight.
Ew.
because that would be. But the craziest way that I could think for the show to end would be if they lost.
Oh my god!
If we watched all of this and then they lost, and that was how it ended, that would probably. I mean, there might be riots in the streets.
Dude, it would
if that happened.
It would kind of be. I kind of love it though. Like I'm one of those fucked up people that every time I watch movies, I root for the bad guys. Like, and I realized this about myself. This is how I realized it, and I'm kind of embarrassed. I went to go see the first Snow White movie with, you know, that actress from Twilight and Charlize Theron. And the entire time, I was like, "Fuck Kristen Stewart. I'm rooting for the evil queen. I want the evil queen to kill this bitch."
You're like, too bad that's happened.
Yeah, and I realized it about myself then, and I kind of root for the bad guys. So yeah, I'd like it. I mean, I'd like it if, like, the Night King won and they, like, marry Cersei and then she's the Night Queen and darkness just reigns for 1,000 years. I'd dig it. I'd really
And you're
would.
just like, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I cannot believe I just watched all of this and I was so sure that Jon was going to win. And then they just, like, lost. And you're sitting there just like, you know how, like, when the Red Wedding happened? I hadn't read the books yet when I watched the Red Wedding. And I was sitting there with, like, my 3 best friends, and the room was, like, just dead silence. And, you know, like, they didn't even have a song on afterwards. It was just complete silence. It was just, like, I had never been that shocked in my entire life. I feel like that would have a similar, just sitting there with, like, my mouth open, being like, oh, did that actually just happen?
I had read the books, and what shocked me is I thought Talisa was going to escape, because I'm like, she's alive in the book. Well, at least her counterpart is alive in the book. So I thought she was going to escape, but when she got stabbed, I was like, oh, shit. Like, I was like, oh, my God. So that was one thing that they kind of shocked me on. But yeah, I was also watching it with people, and, like, their faces. Their faces were just brilliant. like my friend Sierra, she's like holding her mouth and she's just like staring at the screen with no words. And then my buddy Malcolm's just like got like a huge smile on his face. He's not smiling because he's happy. He's smiling because he's just like, what the fuck is happening? And then Catelyn Stark gets her throat cut, and his last words were savage. He just says savage. And I'm like, yeah.
You know what? I actually was, now that I like have read the books and I go back to that scene, the part that I think that they did that made Catelyn one of the many things that they changed about her to make her character more likable in the show was they had her kill the girl instead of the his mentally
simple
handicapped
guy.
Yeah.
I was like, because we told that joke Catelyn Sucks series that where like her one and only contribution to the war effort was that she cut the throat of a mentally handicapped child.
And the saddest sound was the bells. That was the saddest sound. I feel that, yeah.
It was just like, wow, that was awful.
For anybody who is not a fan of Catelyn Tully, you can check out our Why Catelyn Sucks series.
We call her Catelyn Tully.
We roast her bad.
The anger for me really started in the first book when Bran was dying and Jon was there, and she calls him by his first name for the first time ever, and she says it should have been you. That just broke my heart. I was
what a charming woman.
You can't.
And then she like gets like a whole bunch of important stuff that Ned tells her needs to be done, and then she just never does any of it. And just captures Tyrion. And then she never like even considers the fact that most of this bad stuff is probably her fault.
So much stuff happens because of her, and then she's always like, "Oh, my children are dead," even though all of her fucking children are alive. And I'm just like, I just hate her so much. She's just annoying.
And then she like loves herself. You know, she's like, I'm so strong. I'm doing this for my children. And the only assessment we ever get of Catelyn comes from Catelyn. So of course you get like totally duped.
She thinks highly of herself.
Yeah.
She thinks very highly of herself.
Yeah.
I dig Stoneheart though. All right.
It should have been you.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
So you guys want to give your outro, last words before we go?
Yeah.
I would just like to really thank you for having us. I had a good time.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's very seldom that we get to talk to people who know everything about the books like us. So
yeah,
it is. It's been a lot of fun tonight.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much. Like I said at the beginning, the first video I ever found was you had one on the A Feast for Crows or something like that.
Which
Glenn?
one?
The prologue of A Feast for Crows.
Oh, that was a minute ago. Yeah.
And I was like, because we read that, and I'm like, what is going on? You know, like, and I'm just like, maybe there's a YouTube video, and you know, I didn't really watch YouTube videos, and I was like, I found you, and I was like, oh my god, I love him, and then I found that N+A series, and then we were hooked. So big fan of your channel. We would love to do something again in the future, and maybe just focus like on some of the book stuff.
Absolutely. I'm gonna go ahead. I'm sorry, I interrupted
No. Go ahead. You're fine.
I was gonna say absolutely. I'm planning on doing live streams every Thursday, so I'm gonna have a lot more people on, and I'd love to have you guys back on anytime. Really, it's been fantastic.
Yeah, we got to do the book stuff.
Yeah, I get a little carried away.
The book stuff.
I get carried away too. I'll go on tangents talking about stuff in the books because you know there's so much and people don't even know. People don't even realize.
The depth is incredible.
Yeah.
But
so yeah, we would love to do something with you again in the future. We had a thanks to everybody in the comment section. We are the Order of the Green Hand, and if you haven't seen our videos, check them out. You'll probably either like love us or hate us. That's usually the case, but no, we talk about a lot of different things. So we just love the books, and we had a great time.
Yeah, definitely check them out if you haven't already, and you know, like this video before you leave.
Yeah, like the video, guys.
Thanks everyone. Do it already. What are you waiting for? And thanks everyone for watching. It's been fun, and I'll see you guys later.
Okay, thank you. Bye, everybody.
Yep. Good night, everyone.